across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past one, a very good afternoon, a happy Easter Monday to one and all. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. I've got such a great 3 hours for you coming up. I'll be unearthing the scandal of a Waitrose employee fired for tackling a shoplifter. That is a special Dolan's Dispatch at 2 p.m. You won't want to miss it. And breaking this afternoon, following his expletive-laden rant on social media, a peace deal with Iran is now on the table. So will Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East? Also this afternoon, the miraculous story of how the US military crossed enemy lines to rescue that second airman. It'll be a movie one day. We've got the whole incredible story. And how do you solve a problem like Harry and Meghan? The Sussexes left Britain because they wanted privacy. Meanwhile, fresh outrage as they share intimate and personal videos of Archie and Lily over the Easter weekend. We'll be exposing the Duke and Duchess of double standards with one of the world's leading royal commentators. Meanwhile, French police refused to intercept a UK-bound migrant small boat. Why would that be? Because apparently there were too many people on it. You couldn't make it up. And the scandal of £500 million, you heard me right, £500 million of your money being spent by schools to help 1.8 million pupils who don't speak English as a first language. So my question to you this morning at 1:05 in the afternoon, got to work out what time of the day it is, occupational hazard here in radio and TV. My question to you this afternoon, has mass immigration been good for Britain? 03444991000. Yana is taking your calls today. It's an upgraded team, I can't lie. It's so difficult keeping Dave the engineer focused. Today we're going 5 stars, we're going first class, we're turning left on the plane. Amy is outputting the show, which is why I sound so good today. But I look all right too, which is why you need to watch the show. You can listen on DAB+, in-app and online, or you can see us on YouTube. All you've got to do is search Talking Up with Bob. And who is directing our TV output today? Yana. Yana is directing the TV output. You're going to see all my amazing guests and a very special Dolan's Dispatch at 2 o'clock. I promise you won't want to miss it. The incentives in our country are all wrong because a very brave shop worker tackles a shoplifter. He loses his job. That is Dolan's Dispatch. And I've got to tell you, we've had the ultimate upgrade for today's show because normally at the weekend I work with Dean Spencer, right? And Dean Spencer's a good friend of mine. He's lovely. It's important to include these people in the community, to give them a lift up. Well, today, let me tell you, we've gone up several levels. We've gone from, I don't know, a sort of rather middling sort of striker at Nottingham Forest to Cristiano Ronaldo, because the executive producer of the show is none other than Chris Jacobs. So let's deliver, shall we? 3 big hours to come. And Big Chris has had a great idea for today's phone-in topic. 2 questions for you. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? And what about this? Because we put the show together yesterday, booking the finest guests in the land, and we suddenly realised that wouldn't the show be amazing if we could book Winston Churchill, or Margaret Thatcher, or maybe someone living like Sir Elton John, J.K. Rowling, a true luminary, James Dyson. He'd be interesting, wouldn't he, on the show? So what I'd like you to do this Easter Bank Holiday Monday is put together with me your dream show on Talk, OK? Your dream lineup. Who's on the show? 03444991000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. Reacting to the big stories of the day live in the studio, the former editor of the Sunday Express and now leader writer and columnist at The Sun, David Wooding. Hello, David.
Hello. Afternoon.
Happy Easter.
And to you and to your viewers.
Have you maxed out on the Easter eggs this weekend?
I did have an Easter egg last night. I couldn't resist it. I had some. I also had a drink.
I'm glad to hear it. 3 words.
Got to do it.
3 words, David, right? You're worth it.
I'd like to think so.
You are one of the most experienced and respected journalists in the country, and my goodness, have we got a lot to go at today. Gone are the days of a quiet bank holiday Monday. Can you remember in your entire journalistic career a more busy time for journalism? Because I can't think of the last slow news day that we had.
No, absolutely. And when I was a political journalist, we used to have the silly season in the summer where the House of Commons went into recess and half of us wouldn't come into the office because there was nothing to write, and we'd sort of be on the phone at home if we were needed, if something happened, and it was a quiet summer. Ever since, I would say, 2015,
right?
It's been news because we had a general election, then we had Brexit referendum, all of the Brexit logjam, which went on for 2 years. Then we were straight into COVID, and then we started prime ministers being pulled down, leadership elections over the summer, and we don't have a quiet summer anymore. There's no silly season. The news keeps going on.
Most definitely. Well, I gave up taking holidays in August because it proved to be some of the busiest times.
Absolutely.
Some of the Brexit deadlock hit its crescendo in August, and the other issue that we've had Trump, 2 terms of Trump, the war in Ukraine, and the small matter of the Middle East and Gaza, and now Iran. It just doesn't stop. It's quite relentless.
It is.
Do you have any idea why that is?
I don't know. I'd like to think that it's because we're going into a busy and period of turmoil and nothing more than that.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think it's also added by we've got channels like talkTV, which keep bringing out new stories, looking for new stories, keeping the news going, and I think that news cycle has got a little bit more frenetic of late.
Most definitely. Well, of course, in the last couple of days we've had an expletive-laden missive from the President of the United States to Iran saying clear the Strait of Hormuz or all hell will be unleashed. Operation Epic Fury will get even more furious. Well, it surprised people. It raised an eyebrow that he used such strong language. However, there is some semblance of a deal on the table. So can we be hopeful that this conflict in the Middle East will be resolved?
I'm not too hopeful because we're dealing with an erratic president and an unpredictable regime. So anything can happen, really. But nevertheless, there's a glimmer of hope, and we should cling on to it. For instance, President Trump has got a reasonable exit strategy now. The fact that the story that you're going to tell later on in your programme about the rescue, an amazing story, definitely worth listening to. But that story is a great thing. It buries the ghost of April 1980 when there was the Iranian hostage crisis. 54 Americans held hostage in the American embassy in Tehran, and then they of course sent in the airlift to try and get them out, and I think it was two servicemen were killed as a result. That was a massive crisis for America. He has now, against the odds, got the 2 airmen out of Iran who were shot down.
This individual had only a pistol by way of self-defence and only revealed his location at the very last minute.
He climbed up 7,000 feet into a ravine and hid there. And
I mean, if that's not going to be a movie starring Tom Cruise in 5 years' time, David?
Absolutely, it is superb. So, you know, which is perhaps makes me puzzled why he came out with his tirade on Truth Social, because he would have dominated the front pages with this amazing rescue. But instead, the front pages, in many cases, seem to be about the language he used on his intemperate rant online.
There is a difference, though, isn't there, between Trump's public missives, his statements, his rhetoric, his language, and his actions. And in fact, Trump is more cautious in his actions than he is in his words.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of bluster about the man, and again, people are you've heard this often. Don't take him literally, but he means what he says, but don't take it totally literally.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is the language of a deal maker, which he is.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, you know, he's a bit like the man above. He moves in mysterious ways, old Donald. Yeah. But it's not impossible, is it, that in the weeks ahead there is a deal hammered out with Iran, the Strait of Hormuz is cleared, and what we're left with, the potential legacy going into the rest of the year, is a weaker Iran that doesn't anymore hold the sword of Damocles over the world. I mean, is it possible that Trump could have the last laugh in the Middle East?
It's possible. I mean, this deal would be open the Straits of Hormuz immediately, And then I think on the table is a 4 years negotiation to lift the sanctions and at the same time to decide how they cut back their nuclear weapons program, which is to ditch a nuclear weapons program, obviously.
For sure.
So that will be the negotiation, and that will in fact slow down any progress that Iran makes on that front. And of course, they've already been slowed down by the heavy bombardment they've had.
And Trump has given up the idea of regime change. That's for the birds, isn't it?
Well, yes, there was a story around about that. He'd given some arms to the Kurds and claims that the Kurds didn't pass them on to the Iranians. I don't know the full details of that, but certainly that would have been interesting if they had risen from the streets. But, of course, the danger now, the longer this goes on, is that bombarding Iran could turn some of the nationals there against the people who are going to help them in a way.
David, you're busy getting tomorrow's Sun newspaper ready. What are the other big stories for you that you think need our attention?
Well, you mentioned Waitrose. I think that's a cracking story, which you're doing later. But this one about the defence readiness bill, which we were told would be done this year. Now, this is it was recommended in the 2020 Strategic Defence Review that our businesses get on a war footing in case anything happens in the UK, that the UK is dragged into a war. And Vernon Coker, or Lord Coker, said it will be ready in 2026. We're now told it will not be in the King's Speech, which is happening next month. The King's Speech tends to lay out the programme for the next Parliament, which is over a year. So it's going to be 2027 at the earliest before they do this. Now, we've got Russia invading Ukraine and still at war there. We've got the Middle East up in flames. We've got Donald Trump telling us we've got to spend more money on defence, and we're nowhere near doing that. Our Navy was exposed as appallingly feeble and weak during the start of the Iran crisis. And we're now told that we're not going to do anything until mid-2027 at the earliest.
Most definitely. David Wooding, live in the studio, columnist at the Sun newspaper, former editor of the Sunday Express, one of the most experienced journalists in the country, who I'm delighted to say is going to stay with me. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? That is this afternoon's question. Brad in Cambridge, well, wait a minute, Mark. You know, who is mass migration and multiculturalism good for? The cost to the taxpayer is massive. Every public service is creaking at the seams. Our wonderful British culture is being wiped out and the indigenous people are being bred out. It's a situation that isn't even good for established migrants. Well, Brad, you raise a great point there, because I suspect that if Reform UK win the next election, and if Nigel Farage becomes our next Prime Minister, well, after Angela Rayner and Ed Miliband, when he enters number 10, if he does, he'll be swept to power on a multi-ethnic British vote. You heard me right, because Brits of all colours, races and creeds have had enough. They've had enough when they see statistics like £500 million. Chris Jacobs, let's just think about this for a second, right? Our executive producer makes a lot of money, okay? He makes a packet and the drinks are on him. But Chris Jacobs, right, when he pays his tax, and David Wooding and myself and you listening and Amy, it doesn't even touch the sides in relation to the cost of illegal immigration, which is billions of pounds a year, and indeed legal migration. It is very likely that the majority of people, for example, the Boris wave, will be a net cost to the taxpayer for the rest of their lives. Now, if it adds something for the care homes and the fruit pickers, fine. Let's have that conversation, but let's understand the price tag it comes with. So I want to know today, what do you think about this? Is mass migration, and has it been good for Britain? 0344 499 1000. And we're having some fun because it's a bank holiday Monday. We're putting together our dream fantasy talk show, right? The fantasy show on Talk. Who's in it? I'm nominating Sir Elton John, because living or dead. Sir Elton John, I'm putting there. Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher. Those would be three for me. Morecambe and Wise, I wouldn't say no to as well. But lots of suggestions coming in. A brilliant one from Dave in Dorset. Good afternoon, Dave. Thank you for watching the show. Dave says, get some veterans in the studio. Northern Ireland, Falklands, Afghanistan, Bosnia. Let them vent their issues. Have some real people for a change. None of your former advisors, those who are already wadded and don't have to worry about the next bill. Real people talk, real people. Dave, thank you for that. I don't disagree with that suggestion. Huey has said, my perfect show lineup. Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph, Annunciata Rees-Mogg, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Will Geddes, Adam Brooks and King Charles III. My favourite part of that, Chris, is that poor old Charles comes last. Well, I'll tell you who's at the top of my list, and it's David Wooding, top journalist. More from him and your calls, 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're having some fun on Bank Holiday Monday. What is your fantasy talk show, your dream show on Talk? Who's in it? Obviously, I'm hosting, and that's so nice of you to insist on that. But what do you think? Who are my guests? It would be produced by Chris Jacobs, who's doing a great job today. Martin has said, good morning, good afternoon, Mark. You know, I've got to get out of this breakfast thing. It's so embarrassing. Good afternoon, Mark. Dream lineup for a show or debate for me would be Nigel Farage, Ben Habib and Kemi Badenoch. And what about this? They try to get them to work together as a team. You don't have to like everyone you work with. Just find a way. I think the next general election is the final chance for sanity to prevail. These four would be great on your show. Nigel as PM in the pack. That's Martin in Lichfield, whose dream lineup on the Fantasy Talk show is Farage, Habib and Kemi Badenoch. Lots of people suggesting Mike Graham on the show. And let me tell you, Mike Graham, very good friend of mine, doing a brilliant job on YouTube. Now, you can watch this show on YouTube, as of course, all you've got to do is head to YouTube, search Talking Up We Pop. And live now on the show is David Wooding, brilliant columnist at The Sun newspaper. David, that's very interesting, that message from Martin, because he said the fantasy lineup on a perfect talk show would involve Nigel Farage, Ben Habib and Kemi Badenoch. Well, it won't have escaped your attention that a new poll, courtesy of Lord Ashcroft, who I think is a Tory peer, suggests that the Greens, the Conservatives and Reform are neck and neck with about 20% of the vote share. So that presents a dilemma for the political right, doesn't it?
It does. I must point out that Lord Ashcroft does his polls in a different way from other pollsters.
Do they make the Tory party look good?
Well, in this case it does, and I'm not undermining what the findings are, because the findings are significant. They normally ask, if there was an election today or tomorrow, which way would you vote? So that makes you think about, how would I vote now? But what Lord Ashcroft says at the next general election, i.e. in a couple of years' time, how likely would you be minded to vote for the following parties? And if it's over, it gives it from 0 to 100, and if they're over 50%, he puts that down as a vote for that particular party. So on that basis, then it shows that people are more minded to vote Conservatives. But there was another poll as well by More in Common, which showed that Kemi Badenoch was the most popular leader by far, over Farage, over Zach Polanski, over Ed Davey, and 33 points ahead of Keir Starmer. She is the most popular and most attractive leader of all. And what the Luke Trill, the boss of More in Common, said was that a year ago, when they had focus groups, people wouldn't know who Kemi Badenoch was. When they said, "What do you think of Kemi Badenoch?" Who is she, they would say. Now they're bringing her name up unprompted and saying they like the fact that she's straightforward and robust and says what she thinks. And it's clear that she's starting to make progress as a leader. She's had a good spell. I write in my column in the Sun today that she's had a very good Easter, and Easter is the season of hope. So perhaps it shows that she is taking the Conservatives in the right direction. So yes, she has really. It's a long way to go before she rids the Tories of the toxic reputation they had. But nevertheless, if she is starting to cut through now, and we're a little way out from the next general election, then perhaps there's a bit of hope for them.
Well, let me direct my audience to David's column in The Sun today. Fascinating headline, Starmer and Co. A Space Odyssey, which is a fantastic play on words. And then having a look at what David said in particular about Kemi Badenoch, he says the following: the leader of the opposition has had a cracking Easter. The Tory leader is growing into her role. People are starting to notice. In a series of recent interviews, she displayed an air of quiet confidence, resilience, and deep conviction. It's interesting, isn't it, David? People on the right do respect and admire Kemi Badenoch. She's not a Tory wet, and she has taken her party rightwards. She's moved the party away from that sort of central consensus, hasn't she?
She definitely has. She's not starting to show now what those who were supporting her at the outset of the leadership election thought they would see in her. And, you know, it may well be that she was finding her feet. It may well be that behind the scenes she was working on policy ideas. But nevertheless, she is starting to look a bit more vocal and a bit more like the real deal.
I think she's a natural Conservative, isn't she? And a very authentic politician, a woman that grew up experiencing socialism in Nigeria. And it's often people that have experienced a very left-wing regime that are the most natural Conservatives. So there's no wokery there. This is a woman that's proposing, or at least mulling over, the idea of a ban on the burqa. A woman that has said on the BBC that not all cultures are equal, for which she got dog's abuse and stood her ground. Somebody that's considering a ban on cousin marriage. Cuts to public spending of £50 billion. And this is not one nation Toryism by any stretch, is it?
No, she has. And
ECHR is another one.
Well, yeah, part of the problem the Conservatives had was a lot of them in the party were really Lib Dems in a different guise. I think also she's benefited from Robert Jenrick's defection. It was seen as a big blow at the time, but Robert Jenrick really hankered after being leader himself. Now he's gone to reform, and as the Shadow Chancellor, as he's been dubbed, he's out of her hair, and I think she has a little bit more freedom without looking over her shoulder or in the rear-view mirrors all the time to see what Robert Jenrick's up to.
It's a very interesting piece in your column in The Sun today. Let me throw a brief spanner in the works. Great leader, great politician, wrong party.
Absolutely, that's exactly it.
Her brand might be strong. The Tory brand,
that's what she has to do, and it's going to be very, very difficult. So still, people on the right are saying that the only way to stop the left-wing coalition of chaos, which would be the Greens, the Lib Dems, the Labour Party, the SNP and Plaid Cymru, is to have a deal between Nigel Farage and Reform and the Conservatives, because otherwise they're going to vote each other out and let the hard left in.
Most definitely. Well, your dream lineup for the perfect talk show, your fantasy talk show. We're having some fun on Bank Holiday Monday. We've got some fabulous suggestions coming in thick and fast. I've got to say, it's an absolute delight. This from an unnamed texter: Harry Redknapp, Gaza, David Beckham, Carol Decker, Donald Trump. What a good idea. I love talk. It's my favourite network. It's a great TV show. Mark Dolan especially. Oh, my goodness. I didn't realise he was from Wales. George Washington, Margaret Thatcher, Tommy Cooper, Queen Elizabeth, Meghan versus Kate and Princess Diana. Keep those suggestions coming in. Shell has said, Mark, my dream lineup after yourself. Thank you, Michelle. Douglas Murray. Sarah would like Margaret Thatcher, Churchill and Queen Elizabeth II. And we'll get to more of those suggestions shortly. What about you, David? Do you have any ideas for the perfect talk show by way of lineup?
Well, I mean, if you can have alive or dead, I'd really go back into history and have somebody like Horatio Nelson.
Oh, what a great idea.
Or the Duke of Wellington for the military side. I'd also go for someone from the arts, so perhaps Johann Sebastian Bach or Beethoven.
Well, that's
they
not a
would
bad
be
idea.
Fascinating.
Now that you're having a mention of musicians, what about bringing back John Lennon and Elvis?
John Lennon would be a cracking one. Yeah.
Oh, are you a Scouser?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So then that really
John Lennon
tugs at your heartstrings.
Well, I can reveal that I actually went to the same school as Ringo Starr. I hasten to add a lot later than he went, but he was our most famous schoolboy.
And an incredibly underrated drummer.
Yes.
You know, a genius for a drummer, which was that shocking joke from Lennon, whose humour was famously caustic and a bit harsh. When they said, is Ringo Starr the best drummer in the world? He said he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know he felt quite put out when McCartney tried to do drums on a few of their album tracks. Which is a little bit emasculating, but a great drummer he was, and a great character.
Well, it was an integral part of a four-piece band, and the Beatles were not the Beatles without each other.
No, and that unique sound.
Yep.
David, speaking of music as well, what's the latest with Kanye West, who's one of the biggest music stars in the world, but had a horrible rant a few years ago in which he attacked Jewish people and praised Hitler. Now, he said that he was having a psychotic episode, a bipolar moment, and has apologised, but it seems that the row rumbles on about an appearance at a festival here in the UK.
Yes, it's the Wireless Festival, and the sponsors have pulled out. Pepsi, Cola have pulled out, and Diageo, the drinks company who make Guinness, Johnny Walker, whiskey,
all of your favourite drinks, David.
All that, yeah. Gordon's gin, Tanqueray.
I mean, that was just your Easter Sunday, wasn't it? I mean, what would David Wooding do without the excellent services?
Oh, we can't live without Diageo. But they've pulled out, and it's really embarrassing for the organisers now to get a sponsor. But most importantly, there's pressure growing on the Home Secretary, Shabam Mahmood, to block his visa application when it comes in, because he will not be able to perform in Britain without a visa application. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, has complained. Lots of Labour MPs, including Rachel Maskell and others, have said, you cannot allow this man in the country. Now, back to the point you mentioned earlier about, he had a psychotic episode. He actually recorded a record about Hitler. And if this was a psychotic episode, why does it get to the point of him recording a disc about it? Why did the people around him? I'm sure he has producers and advisors and communications directors. Why do they not say to him, "Hang on a second, this is ridiculous. You cannot do this." He's done it. So I think he knew what he was doing, and I think the pressure building upon the Home Secretary now will probably lead to something being done. I wouldn't be surprised if she banned this visa by the end of today or early tomorrow. I think she will have to act to show that, because anti-Semitism in this country has really rocketed. There was marches, the attacks on synagogues, and I think the government has to show it means business, and I wouldn't be surprised if she acted to ban him from coming to Britain.
David, it's always such a treat to have you in the studio. We know how busy you are at The Sun getting tomorrow's paper ready, and let me recommend David's brilliant column in The Sun today, Starmer and Co, A Space Odyssey. How brilliantly put. My thanks to David Wooding. Lots more to come. Your dream lineup for the perfect talk show, please. 0344 499 1000. Text your suggestions and the word talk to 87222. Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart was one suggestion from an unnamed texter. Mark Selby would like Christo Fufas, another old friend of mine, a great broadcaster, of course. Many more suggestions to come. But the big question all afternoon, has mass immigration been good for Britain? You're listening to Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. Mark Dolan with you at 1:35 in the afternoon, in for the brilliant Ian Collins. A very special Dolan's Dispatch coming at 2 p.m. You won't want to miss it. A brave supermarket worker, a guy that has been with Waitrose for many years, apprehends a shoplifter and loses his job. All the incentives in our society are wrong. That is a special Dolan's Dispatch at 2 p.m. in just 25 minutes time from now. Well, folks, breaking this afternoon, a deal is on the table. So could Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East? Who better to ask than the highly respected US political commentator, a regular on Fox News and Newsmax, Hilary Fordwich. Hi, Hilary.
Yes, good morning from here. Good afternoon.
Well, it's great to have you on the programme, and a very happy Easter to you and yours. When we last spoke, I asked you what Donald Trump wanted his legacy to be, and you said he wants to be the greatest president of all time. To what extent will his actions in the Middle East thwart that ambition?
Well, good memory there, Mark. Absolutely. I did say that because he doesn't need the fame. He doesn't need the money. He does want to go down as the greatest president of all time. He wants to go down also as the president of peace. And of course, that's what's sort of eroding his MAGA base, so to speak, because he did purport to be remember he was talking about wanting the Nobel Peace Prize. But I think the thing is, he's playing the long game, Mark. And what he's doing is he's clearing up the mess of 47 years. Something that's rather interesting, if you go back to 1987, there is a clip with him being interviewed by, I believe it was Barbara Walters. I don't think it was Oprah. I think it was Barbara Walters. But I remember him vividly saying, you can get that clip, and he vividly said then, we need to take down this regime. And if you remember, the last time that there was a sort of a rescue attempt, the Desert Storm under Jimmy Carter, was an abject failure. So now getting back to your question there, I do think that, yes, he wants to go down as the greatest president of all time, but you can't do things overnight. I actually want to say with regard to, people keep saying, well, he keeps changing his tweets and he keeps changing things. Remember what Winston Churchill said? He said, the truth needs to be escorted by a convoy of lies. And I would actually change that with regard, if I might take the liberty of changing what Churchill said. With Trump, it may be escorted with a convoy of confusion, because he sends out all these different things in confusion. But he's laser focused, Mark, on doing the right thing with regard to the Middle East. And who would have ever thought, or ever predicted that the United Arab Emirates and all of the Arab nations would be coming to the side of Israel? He is changing the world order as we watch.
The world is provably a safer place this afternoon, is it not, following Donald Trump's actions in the Middle East, given the fact that Iran has effectively been disarmed?
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, this is something I think rather interesting, although I can't give all of the information and you might be able to find somebody else who's authorized to. But do you know how we took out the majority of all their leadership? Wasn't it a little bit strange that we knew exactly where all their leadership was at one time? Mark, I don't know if you've heard this yet, or your audience has heard this yet. We managed years ago, under President Trump and his first administration, we infiltrated the dentists and they implanted within their teeth trackers, and we knew where they were to take them out. Wow is right. And we know also, I think Boeing, and I'm surprised that Boeing isn't like touting this more, hopefully it'll come out more, but it was the tracker that this pilot had. That's how we were able to find him, this combat salvage. We were able to find him because of sophisticated tracker that he had with him. So again, talking about the convoy of lies, we don't know everything, Mark, and we shouldn't know everything. We're the media. We should not, because things are going on that we don't even know about. So is the world going to be a safer place? Absolutely. I believe President Trump will get it done.
So the US Secret Services deserve great credit for the efficacy of this war in Iran so far. Hillary, how do you see it playing out?
Well, one last thing I'd like to add there, and before I say about how it's going to play out, but the two tie together. How's it going to play out? Do you know we also managed to infiltrate their call to prayer app? And that was how we were communicating with a lot of the Iranians, the Iranian people. So now how is it going to play out? The only downside is that, well, not the only downside, one of the downsides is President Trump is used to dealing with people who, one, care about their people and their nation and care about money. The Iranian leadership doesn't. They are theocrats, right? And they're fanatical. They care about their religion. They're willing to die for Allah. They're fanatics. So I think it's a different kind of beast. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. And I don't think anybody that would try to purport to you that they does, because nobody does. My prediction, though, is that it may not be as quick as we want, but eventually they've got to capitulate. But the one thing they want to stay in power. We have to give them a way out where they save face.
Most definitely. They need a gold-plated ladder down which to climb, do they not?
Yeah. Yes, they do. And actually, can I just tie this together with your last segment when you said, what's your dream list? And the gentleman was saying about if we could have someone from the past. With AI now, we actually could do lots of things. We actually could have like Elizabeth I or Henry VIII, and AI could track everything they've ever written and everything they ever said. And we could actually get them to speak. So now when you said that golden ladder, yes, we need to actually pull a miracle out here. And that is give them a way, though, to get what they want and to save face. That's what they want. But we have to take out their ability to ever threaten all of civilization. And it isn't just the US, it's all of Western civilized nations.
Do you think that regime change is now a non-starter and for the birds, Hillary?
I don't know. I do think that the Shah's descendant, Pavlovich, I never good at pronouncing his name, sorry. I do know that he would really like it, but for whatever reason, the Trump administration isn't behind him. I don't really know what negotiations are going on there or who would be appropriate. I don't think that's been talked about. I don't know many people that are talking about that. We're just focused on the change there. I think the disappointing part has been, I believe President Trump thought, and in the general consensus I'm hearing is that the Iranian people would rise up, but 32,000 of them had already been massacred by their regime. So when you saw that wrestler, was it 19-year-old wrestler, and he was hanged, I think it's terrified the Iranian people. Last but not least, don't forget, there are so many people who are working for the Guard over there also. They're desperate to save themselves because they have no future once this regime is pulled down.
Hillary, you are always fastidious in your use of language when you're broadcasting on many, many news networks. Were you surprised at Donald Trump's expletive-laden rant?
Well, actually, everybody's different, right, Mark? There were television programs everybody was watching at one point, whether it was Sopranos or all these television programs. And I always loved Downton Abbey. I always said it's a program with no expletives, no gratuitous sex, and no violence, right? And it was so popular. I think a lot of people are like me. My mama used to say expletives are an abject indication of an insufficient vocabulary to express oneself. But President Trump is a boy from the Bronx and Brooklyn, and that's the way people communicate.
He's a street fighter.
He absolutely is. And you know what? I will tell you, Mark, probably just like in the UK, but there's a lot of people now, that's how they talk, that's how they behave. He's more a regular guy than somebody like me. I would never use an expletive.
Is it becoming, though, of the leader of the free world?
Well, again, that's a subjective, tasteful issue. For me, no, that's a very personal thing. I think to relate to the masses, and we're a changing, evolving world. We don't wear hats anymore. Like President Kennedy, when he didn't wear a hat at his inauguration, that was thought as almost like blasphemy, the way we dress. We don't wear what we used to wear. Ladies have our ankles showing, for goodness sake. So things change, things evolve. And I think he's part of he speaks to the next generation. That's how they talk.
And Donald Trump, as you've said, has been very ideologically consistent for many years. You just told us there that he's been on talk shows in the 80s, expressing his concerns about Iran and its impact on, America and the world. Similarly, he was on one of those other shows, Oprah or Letterman, talking about the unfairness of tariffs as well. So he is ideologically consistent. The issue is, Hillary, that many on the right here in the UK struggle with Donald Trump. Can you understand why?
Yes, I totally do. And I don't want to sound too modest, but being an English-born girl and being in America and living in America now, I really do feel that I understand both sides of the Atlantic. But I think the sentiments in England, the whole of the UK, probably are very similar to mine, being raised by an English mother and being an English girl. And that is, it isn't professional. It's uncouth. That's the word. It's uncouth. But again, you have to realize that he's representing a lot of Americans. And I remember somebody from England, a very big leader, CEO, he said to me, and he's got such a limited vocabulary. And I said, but sorry, a lot of Americans do. I remember being raised in school in England where you weren't allowed to use the word nice or really or got. Americans, that's it. I remember they were studying, when I came to America as a teenager, Mark, they were studying, it's a test called the SATs, the Scholastic Aptitude Test. And they were studying vocabulary that we just use regularly in England. So it's a very different culture. I totally agree it's uncouth, but that's our English and British perspective, and it's the way of the world for the future.
Is he a true conservative?
I think he has a true North Star, and I do think he's a true conservative, probably more conservative than the current, certainly, Conservative Party in the UK. He's not a globalist. And by the way, every leader of every nation should be out for their own nation.
What a fascinating account. Hillary, before we let you go, you're an expert on so many things, including the British Constitution, the royal family, history. A quick word on Harry and Meghan. Is there any way back for the Sussexes into the bosom of the royal family?
Well, into the bosom, that's very, very close, isn't it? Gosh. But there's a yes-no answer, and I don't mean to prevaricate, but no, 100% no, definitely no. If they continue doing what they've been doing and continuing down this track, they cannot throw the royal family under the proverbial royal bath. They cannot badmouth the royal family. They cannot do all that they've done. I think it's actually too late to ever gain trust. It's like saying to someone, love me, love me. No, you have to have them love you. You have to prove that you're trustworthy. So that's all destroyed. However, the only yes would be if hypocritical Harry could actually do what he said he wanted to do. Remember when he said that he has PTSD from panic attacks when he's in front of the media, and then they went to LA with the 3 media PR firms, etc. If they moved to Africa and they actually dedicated themselves for a number of years to the local community, and they actually did do some good, if they actually did want privacy for their children, and Meghan stopped putting them over Instagram and promoting them and using them, if they stopped being hypocritical and they stopped being critical of the royal family, and they did that for many years, I do think there would be some admiration for what they had done that was right, and actually tying that together with, by the way, Andrew and Fergie, if they had for years actually worked to help young women and actually done some good for society instead of just thinking about themselves. So it's do unto others as they would be done by. Do for others, serve others, and you might be accepted back. But I think the trust is really gone, Mark.
Hillary, how can my viewers and listeners find out more about what you do?
Oh, I'm a keynote speaker. Love to speak anywhere. Love to be in the UK. I have a website. You just Google my name and you'd find it. It's under Strelmark, how you strategically develop the relationships that market your business. But I do have YouTube. I'm on X, and I'm building, and growing, and love to come and speak and be in the UK.
Well, we love having you on the show, and I know you're massive on Fox News and Newsmax as well, with whom you have a
And
very
Sky
good...
News Australia as well.
Sky News Australia, my goodness, it's all happening. Well, Hillary, please join us again soon. Enjoy the tail end of this Easter weekend. My deep thanks to Hillary Fordwich, US political commentator. Some voice notes now. What about this? Kanye West, the singer who indulged in a horrible anti-Semitic rant a couple of years ago, he's apologised. But should he be allowed to perform in the UK? Here's a voice note from Ian.
Talking about banning Kanye West coming here, which don't get me wrong, I quite agree with. But surely there's once again two-tier. What about Kneecap? What about Bob Villan? You know, let's have some like treatment for everyone rather than just highlighting someone. I mean, the treatment of the two are like chalk and cheese. It's madness.
What a very good voice note. And has mass immigration been good for Britain? Here's Kelvin.
If you're on the left, you can say it's been good because it's taking all the housing stock and taking more of it. It's costing us a fortune every day in hotel fees and HMOs. It's really keeping the wages down. So, yeah, and we're having protests on the streets every week. So if you're on the left wing side, yeah, it's good for the country because that's what they want. It's slowly destroying this country from the right side of everything. Oh, it's bad.
Keep those voice notes coming. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? This is Talk.
Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It is 1:53. In just a few minutes' time, a special Dolan's Dispatch at 2 p.m. And it's about the brave Waitrose supermarket worker who apprehended a shoplifter and has been fired from his job. It's a scandal. The incentives are all wrong in this country. That's a special Dolan's Dispatch in less than 10 minutes' time. Yvonne in Somerset is watching the show. Hello, Yvonne. How are you? Yvonne says, good afternoon, Mark, in relation to Trump's language. It really is only the wets like Starmer, Macron and all the lefty leaders that cry like little girls over this. Maggie says, good afternoon, Mark. I think you'll find Trump is good and ready. He's prepared up front, so watch this space. As for the pearl clutchers, because he said a few swear words, give me a break. MG in Staffordshire says, Mark, if Trump thinks that this type of language connects him to the masses, then he's patronising. It's disgusting. Using nice is not an example of changing language. It shows a limited knowledge of vocabulary. John says, Mark, it's actually refreshing that President Trump shows his anger with Iran by swearing at them. He's a businessman, not a politician. He says what he thinks rather than what he thinks people want to hear. Keep those opinions coming. Nigel is in the capital. Hello, Nigel.
Mark, good afternoon to you. Very nice to speak to you.
Lovely to have you on the show. Nigel, has mass immigration been good for the country? We've got the news today that it's costing £500 million a year to support children in school who don't speak English as their first language.
Well, I want to talk about that, if I may, and also about Waitrose. I think mass immigration, which is legal, is perfectly okay. Illegal immigration is absolutely dire. And interesting, because I live in the US as well as the UK, and in America, there's only two languages spoken. That's it. That's Spanish or American. And you go to the government building or your doctor's surgery or wherever, if you don't speak those languages, you don't get served. Here, I go to my doctor's surgery, there's about 75 different flags to press for the country. And I think that we should embrace multiculturalism if it's legal. Not illegal, but if it's legal, because it has enriched the country in so many ways. But this thing about illegal immigration, which this government and previous governments are failing to address, failing to actually deal with it because they don't want to.
Has immigration been valuable but too high, though, Nigel?
Well, I think there has to be an allowance, and we have to look at the resources. But when you start having to put people in homes and houses which they have never contributed to, and I have to pay for it, I think that's very, very wrong.
So how has legal immigration been good for the country, Nigel?
Well, how? Because it's given us different restaurants, it's given us different cultures, it's given us the ability to do different things and learn from other people, and I think that's really important.
Is that true when you're looking at net figures of maybe 50,000 people a year rather than 1 million?
Well, I think that we have to separate this into two arguments. Do we support illegal immigration? Absolutely not.
Right.
Does the government support it? I think it does, because it clearly doesn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But I think if people come here legally with the correct paperwork and are prepared to contribute and do contribute by paying their taxes, then that's great. But if they don't contribute, then why should they be here? Why should I have to pay for them?
Common sense at last. Nigel, we've been chatting for years. Lovely to speak to you again. Call me please soon. Interesting remarks there from Nigel. Jason is in Sheffield. Afternoon, Jason.
Good afternoon, Mark. How you doing?
Very well. Happy Easter Monday.
Yep. Atheist, so I don't really celebrate it, but
Jason, you've just popped my... I was getting all excited. You popped my balloon. I thought you were halfway through a Cadbury's cream egg, having just been to church.
No, I'm just not into religion, to be honest.
No, that's not a problem, is it? Each to their own, Jason. Have you at least had a break this weekend? Have you had time off because of the bank holiday?
Yeah, I'm self-employed, so I've managed to get some time off. So,
more power to you. Well, Jason, what do you think? Mass immigration, has it been good for Britain?
Well, that wasn't what I rang up originally for.
Okay.
But it's, in some cases it has, but in the vast majority, in the last 3 or 4 years, probably not. It's probably been detrimental to the to British people, to be honest.
Jason, what were you going to call me about?
I was going to call you about the Iran, well, two short points, if I may.
Of course.
First point is the Iran war, when Starmer and all the other EU leaders, Macron and the German Chancellor, threw their hands up and saying, it's nothing to do with us. We don't want anything to do with it. Well, we now know that Iran have got missiles capable of hitting Europe and Britain.
Yeah.
As we've seen from the Strait of Hormuz, they could plant a couple of missiles in the channel and close the English Channel down. Now, if that happened, as you know, the English Channel's the busiest shipping lane in the world. If they think the economic hit from the Straits of Hormuz is big, then closing down the English Channel to Europe and Britain will bring Europe and Britain to its absolute knees, and that's what they don't think of. I've never heard anyone mention it before, but...
Well, that's a very interesting thought. Do you think that Donald Trump has a plan, Jason?
I think he does. Obviously, he can't broadcast his plan.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
Jason, do you know what? It's pause for thought. I think we're in a world of unknowns, aren't we? Thank you for your interesting remarks about that. Will Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East? What do you think about that? I mean, I would argue that we're in a better place today than we were at the beginning of the year, having disarmed this wicked regime. The conversation continues. I'm looking forward to today's Dolan's Dispatch. A Waitrose worker sacked for stopping a shoplifter. That's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
3 minutes past 2, afternoon. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. A packed show for you today. Happy Easter Monday, one and all. I'll be unearthing the scandal of a Waitrose employee fired for tackling a shoplifter. That's a special Dolan's Dispatch in 1 minute's time. And breaking this afternoon, following his expletive-laden rant on social media, a peace deal with Iran is now on the table. So will Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East? Plus, the miraculous story of how the US military crossed enemy lines to rescue that second airman. It's going to be a movie one day. We've got the whole incredible story. Now, what about this? Harry and Meghan left Britain because they wanted privacy. Meanwhile, fresh outrage as they share intimate and personal videos of Archie and Lily over the Easter weekend. So we'll be exposing the Duke and Duchess of double standards with one of the world's leading royal commentators. And what about a shambles this one is? French police refused to intercept a UK-bound migrant small boat in which 2 people died. Why? Because there were too many people on board. You couldn't make it up. And the scandal of £500 million being spent every year, £500 million of your money and mine, spent by schools to help 1.8 million pupils who don't speak English as their first language in the classroom. So my question this afternoon is a simple one. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. We're having some fun this afternoon. It is bank holiday after all. So what is your dream lineup on the Perfect Talk show? Your fantasy lineup of guests. Text those suggestions with the word talk and your message to 87222. As the saying goes, let's talk. And let's kick off at 5 minutes past 2 in the afternoon with today's Dolan's Dispatch. It's pretty simple, really. The incentives in our country are all wrong. With a hike in the minimum wage, there is no incentive on businesses to employ young people who, given their lack of experience, are on the lowest hourly rate, which means that you get the highest youth unemployment in Europe, which is a low bar because no one in Spain works. With an increase in so-called workers' rights and the insanity of sick pay and even bereavement leave on day one, and a lengthy, costly tribunal if you hire someone that you immediately realise is useless, then there is no incentive to grow your workforce, which is why unemployment is back. If you punish people that hire workers, then hire them, they will not. It's not complicated. With a hike in national insurance contributions made by the employer and the biggest tax burden since the Second World War, there is no incentive for businesses to invest, and given their ever-decreasing bottom line and ever-increasing costs via inflation, there is no money for these companies to invest anyway. The incentives in our country are all wrong, which is why 16,000 millionaires are expected to leave Britain this year alone. 16,000 wealth creators, productive people. Now, ideology makes you incredibly stupid. It makes you ignorant, it makes you thick, because if you're captured by an ideology, you are no longer logical, you're no longer evidence-based. You cannot process the facts, which is why there are lefties in this country, and I'm afraid some of them are in the governing party of this country, who somehow think it's good that rich people are leaving. You heard me right. Their attitude is good riddance. We don't need these selfish capitalists. Well, given that these selfish capitalists pay the lion's share of income tax and create the national income which pays for schools, nurses, doctors and police officers, I think you'll find we do need them. There is no incentive for a young person to save for a home of their own. It doesn't matter how many coffees and lattes and avocados they stop consuming. Many of them will never get on the housing ladder. Now, if young people don't have skin in the game, if they can't buy a property, if they're saddled with university debt And if now, thanks to Rachel from accounts, they can't even get a basic minimum wage job pulling pints in their local pub, well, they will naturally seek a more radical political solution. Someone like the leader of the Green Party, Captain Cleavage himself, Zach Polanski. There is no incentive for alarm clock Britain. Why would you get up at 4 or 5 in the morning and be a bricklayer, a van driver, a plumber, an accountant? Why would you do that when in the last budget, those on benefits got a pay rise and will get help with their energy bills too? If you go to work, if you obey the law, if you don't shoplift and actually pay for your goods at Tesco and Co-op, if you don't steal a load of fillet steaks and jars of Nescafe Gold Blend from your local Morrison's, then you're a mug. You're an idiot. More fool you. There is no incentive in our country in 2026 to do the right thing, which takes me to the heroic Walker Smith, a long-standing employee of Waitrose, who was sacked after stopping a suspected shoplifter of stealing a bag of luxury Easter eggs. What a hero this man was. Walker Smith, like you, like me, like producer Chris Jacobs, he's had enough. He's had enough. So he was on duty at the Clapham Junction branch of Waitrose in South London when a shopper alerted him to the alleged theft. The suspect was reportedly known to staff and had allegedly targeted the store in the past. So Walker Smith confronts this individual, which is a very brave thing to do, and he grabs the bag. Now, the person pulled the bag back, they struggled, the bag split, load of eggs went on the floor, no problem. The shoplifter then fled. Of course they fled, because these people are horrible cowards. Their behaviour, the behaviour of shoplifters, is quietly chipping away at our social contracts and eroding our civilised society. Now, Mr. Smith said he was previously told by Waitrose bosses not to approach shoplifters, but the toll of repeatedly seeing these people get away with theft spurred him into action. Because like me, like you, and like the producer of this show, Chris Jacobs, he's had enough. He told The Telegraph, I've been at Waitrose for 17 years, and I've seen this happen every hour of every day for the last 5 years. Now, a few days later, something absolutely shocking happened. Mr. Smith was hauled into a meeting with 2 Waitrose store managers. He made a final plea. He knew the writing was on the wall. He begged his bosses. He said, Waitrose is like my family. But he was dismissed, fired after years and years of loyal service, fired for standing up to a criminal, fired because like me and like you and like the producer of this show, Chris Jacobs, he's had enough. Now, wait for this. You won't believe this story. At this point, the Waitrose bosses led this man out of the back door of the store by the bins. He said, I felt completely demoralised. Mr. Smith said he was not a bad or violent or aggressive person. He said, I just got frustrated seeing this day in and day out and not seeing Waitrose do much about it. Now, official figures show that there were over 500,000 shoplifting offences recorded in England and Wales in the last year. 500,000 offences. By the way, folks, tip of the iceberg. That'll be the reported offences. A 5% rise on the previous year. Now, we know that just last week a group of youths caused disorder in London involving a Marks & Spencer store, again in Clapham, interestingly. Now, one of the bosses at M&S, who I really would like to salute, called out the government and the Home Secretary and the London Mayor, saying you've got to do more to tackle crime in this country. Writing in The Telegraph, the M&S retail director, Tinas Keeve, said the following. He said, without a government seriously cracking down on crime and a mayor that prioritises effective policing, we are powerless. And I've got a new development for you. You won't believe this. Sainsbury's, which is my mother's favourite supermarket. We've all got our favourites. I'm a little bit of I go to all of them. My mother likes Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's is reportedly considering giving guards protective clothing following a number of violent assaults. Speaking to The Sun on Sunday, a Sainsbury's security source said the company is buying stab vests for their workers. It's sad, but it's necessary, said this insider. A guy got stabbed at one shop the other day, and people are trying to steal at all times of the day. They are violent, they're dangerous. Is that progress now? Stab vest for supermarket workers? My heart goes out to the people that work in supermarkets. I love them. I really love the people that work in supermarkets. They're busy stacking shelves all day. They're not making millions of pounds. They get up in the morning, it's long hours. They do a brilliant job. I love the supermarket workers. And aren't they so friendly and helpful? I treasure these people. But my heart goes out to them because they don't get paid very much money. And yet they're putting themselves in harm's way on a daily basis. And Walker Smith, he does the right thing. He gets punished for his pleasure. Just like those men who were arrested after dragging a man off a packed train carriage that was populated by women and children, who had fully exposed himself and was threatening passengers. This is a lunatic on the train, pulls his trousers down, folks, full meat and two veg, and a couple of brave lads dragged him onto the floor. Not violent, got him on the floor, got control of him, citizen's arrest, pulled him off the train. Well, you won't believe this, folks. They've now had their collar felt. In this clown world that we now inhabit, they face potential criminal charges. They could be in deep trouble for doing the right thing. There's no incentive to start a business. There's no incentive to work hard. There's no incentive to follow the rules. There's no incentive to follow the law, to pay your taxes, to contribute to society. There's no incentive to be brave, to stick up for your fellow man. There's no incentive to protect society. There's no incentive to do the right thing. And today is the start of the new tax year, and we're going to see thousands of businesses shut down between now and the next general election. Wealth creators will flee. They already are. Good people will emigrate. Meanwhile, the boats keep coming, and the establishment don't think that Britain is broken. Well, it is broken because the incentives are all wrong. So here's my answer at 2:15 in the afternoon before I take a call from Adam in Bristol. Let's wrap this up, right? It's a Dolan's Dispatch special. It's a bumper edition. But here's my final thought. It is time for you and I to say no. To say no to endless taxation in return for ever worse public services. To say no to socialist policies which reward the idle and punish the productive and create economic quicksand with unemployment, low growth and inflation. It's time to say no to a society in which lollipop ladies have to have a body cam because of the violence and abuse that they face. Time to say no to Sainsbury's workers who need a bulletproof and a knife-proof vest. It's time to say no to people putting their feet on the train, on the seats, listening to loud music, being antisocial. It's time to say no to fly tippers and litterbugs and people driving an uninsured car whilst baked on weed. Citizenship is a privilege that comes with duties. We must be a nation, a society and a community again, based upon the long-established rules and spiritual and philosophical traditions of this country. Decency, respect, putting in more than you take out, behaving yourself, loving thy neighbour, being useful, being productive, having a laugh, giving something back and doing the right thing. Our problems are many. A Ponzi scheme of an economy which is going to collapse sooner rather than later. Open borders. A poorly integrated so-called multicultural society. And egregiously stupid energy policies that see us ignore our oil and gas reserves on our own shores during an energy crisis. The list goes on. But I have a solution, because in life, you're never going to make everything better straight away. It's one step at a time. Win the day, not the week. Win the day, not the month. Win the day, not the year. And I'm happy for us to take baby steps in the right direction. And perhaps we could start by saying no to shoplifting. By saying, actually, that's a red line. And if you steal from a small corner shop or a convenience store, you know those heroes that are open 24 hours a day. If you steal from a Waitrose, an Aldi or a Tesco, you will be punished. Why? Because after all, every little helps. 0344 499 1000. Your reaction. Adam is in Bristol. Hello, Adam.
Hello, hi, Mark. Hi.
Adam, have I gone too far?
Not at all. I'm overwhelmed, and I totally agree with every little word you said. Absolutely amazing. I've been listening to you for last 1 hour, I suppose. But yeah, the last speech you just finished now, absolutely agree with every little word you said.
Well, that's very kind of you. That's very kind of you to say, Adam. Some would argue that our society has got complicated problems and that shoplifting is a symptom of inequality. Is that a fair defence?
Not at all. I think it's a lot depend on your upbringing. I was listening to a lot of other points people made. I have 2 kids, and you just need to bring your children with the right thing. You can say brainwash them with a good thing, so that they don't go out and commit such crimes, which is downgrading our society. It's very unfair.
It most definitely is. And Adam, you are an immigrant into this country. And how do you feel about the scale of immigration we now see?
Yeah, so I was just talking to it about it earlier. So basically, I came in this country 25 years back. You can see a lot of people are coming to this country legally or illegally because it's a beautiful country. You can trust me on that. It's been 25 years. I made a good life out. When I came here, I got family. I bought house, I got mortgage, I went to work every day, whenever I was allocated to, paid taxes. I've been a good citizen. And I just wanted to say what happens is when you have illegal immigrants and the government is not taking proper action on it, in the society, people start to have views about, because they don't know who is legal and who is illegal. They see everybody with the same eyes that, he could be an illegal migrant. So sometimes the legal migrants get the grief of it. I have seen it happening. So this is what the big difference is about the illegal and legal immigration. If you have illegal immigration carries on, you don't know who is coming into your country. You don't know their views. You don't know their education. You're going to spend money on their welfare, their English speaking, for example. It just goes on and on and on. And hardworking British white people, I can say, if for that instance, will say that, so who is they see everybody with the same views. So the legal migrants who are absolutely working hard, I see them all around me. They contribute so much to the society, pay tax. They are putting into the same jar, which is not fair on them.
So, Adam, what I'm hearing from you is that open borders and illegal immigration is very bad news for British immigrants who do work hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. There are so many people who came here during COVID, after COVID, before COVID. People come here to work originally. And if you say that, okay, well, we don't know, they might be coming and then claiming more benefits, before you give them the citizenship, look at their record, how much they have contributed. I know I sound a bit vague, but you can look at their contribution to the society in the British economy, in the British society, and then deny them the citizenship. If you're going to carry on with illegal immigration and the legal immigrants who come here, for example, on student visa and then claim asylum, nobody's under your watch to make Britain better.
Someone coming in on a student visa is not the same as a nurse from Nigeria, is it? Not the same as a computer programmer from Singapore. It's not the same as a plumber from Slovakia.
Absolutely, yeah. We need to look at who is coming into your country, how much they're contributing. Are they being a good citizen? What are their, CRB checks? and then grant them, the citizenship. I mean, I totally disagree with we are spending so much money on people who can't speak English. Let's make that the main thing before you enter Britain. How can you be safe or others be safe if you don't know English? I just, when I came to this country, I properly joined English speaking course and learned English before I even applied to work in this country. That's common sense, which we are losing in today's world.
Adam, can I thank you for your contribution to this country as an immigrant? And you're an example of what I would describe as high quality, elite level immigration. And I think that's the point about immigration. I don't know anyone, including viewers and listeners to this show and this channel, who are anti-immigration full stop per se. Far from it. It's about the amount, it's about the quantity, the volume, and it's about the quality too. I don't know anyone that doesn't want nurses from Africa, engineers from Singapore and plumbers from Eastern Europe. I don't know anyone that has a problem with that. And folk like Adam, who came here years ago at great expense and with great effort, learnt the language in a language school. That's what it's supposed to be like, and that is not what it's like at the moment. Your reaction: has mass immigration been good for Britain? It is 2:24.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mark Dolan in for Ian Collins. Happy Easter Monday. I hope you've had a good bank holiday weekend. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? Sarah says, Mark, mass immigration is the root of every problem we have today. And we all know it, but I know some foreign people who call themselves English. Great. I want my kids to have English partners. I know that's controversial, but if not, if you're Pakistani or Sri Lankan, for example, then it's perfectly fine to want your kids to marry into your own culture. The problem is that there are not very many English people around. My daughter has a lot of friends, but only 2 of them are what could be described as English. Sarah, thank you for that. Mass immigration, says Clay in Folkestone. Has that been good for the UK? Not so sure. Mass demonstrations every weekend with streets blocked, citizens being murdered, little girls and women being raped. What more could we wish for as a diverse society? Happy Easter, says Clay. Clay, thank you for that. Anna in Surrey, right, your dream lineup for the perfect talk show. Anna says Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Jesus Christ, Galileo, Christo Fufas. You can never afford Christo. We'll get to more of your suggestions for a dream lineup. Maybe just this from Steve, who says, good afternoon, Mark. My dream show, Tommy Cooper, Spike Milligan and cuddly Kenny Everett. Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore, do they? I'd go for Peter Sellers as well, bit of Inspector Clouseau. What's not to like? Folks, a massive developing story. It's costing the National Department for Education £500 million a year to support children who do not speak English as their first language. £500 million a year for the Department for Education, because there are 1.8 million children who do not speak the language as their first English as their first language. Robert Bates is the research director at the Centre for Migration Control. Hi, Robert.
Afternoon, Mark. Thanks for having me.
This is a shocking statistic, isn't it? £500 million a year for almost 2 million kids that don't speak English.
Well, I think this is unfortunately the inevitable outcome of the policies that the political class have pursued for several decades now. This idea that actually there is no need to require integration or assimilation of those who have just arrived in the country. Many adults, of course, arrive with very lax English language aptitude as well. And unfortunately, this is something that then gets passed on to children. These figures of these these children having English as their second language. Of course, we need to think about what the consequences are in the classroom for those children who are English and who do have it as their first language. The pace of learning, the pace of the lessons and the teaching is going to be set by those that perhaps require a bit more support. And then, of course, there is the huge costs as well. And I think we need to ask ourselves, what kind of country are we actually creating for ourselves, where we have these huge linguistic divides now taking place within classrooms? It doesn't feel to me like we are creating the kind of society that is going to be harmonious and all on the same page going forward. And I think when you actually look at some of the statistics when it comes to schools, not just when it comes to English language, but in terms of classrooms being multitudes of languages or different backgrounds and so forth, you kind of think actually we are now at a point where Britain really isn't one team. We're not all on the same page. We've got different priorities, different loyalties, and unfortunately, really, actually, these figures here are just yet another example of how it's the taxpayer having to pick up the tab for a huge problem that is coming down the track.
Most definitely. Well, I took a very impressive call from Adam just a few minutes ago, Robert. I don't know if you heard it, but he's somebody that came to this country a couple of decades ago at great expense and with a lot of effort. He learnt the language. He went and did a course. And this is a guy that works very hard and pays his taxes. That is the kind of high-quality immigration that we need, isn't it?
But unfortunately, we don't get much of it. And actually, when you look at the conversation when it comes to these kinds of statistics, rather than actually saying, well, let's just have an immigration system where people can't come to Britain if they don't speak the language, we start having this vague talk about integration strategies, which are effectively saying, well, let's throw more money at adult education English lessons for those aged 18 plus, and that's hundreds of millions of pounds every year as well, going to individuals who've been given a visa. So they come legally by this government, and somehow we're meant to be convinced that these individuals are going to be an economic boon for the country. And rather than actually them coming here with all the skills necessary to properly put their shoulder to the wheel and help build up this country, actually we're having to support them to get by in even the most basic of tasks. And this is really actually what happens when you hand out over 1 million visas a year, when you're handing out hundreds of thousands of visas, and you've got open borders and chaos with illegal migration as well, is you end up with people that need to be supported. And unfortunately, it is the hardworking British taxpayer that is being walloped left, right and centre by this Labour government that is being effectively required to bail out these individuals. And the caller that you mentioned there, yes, has made a great effort, speaks English, and thrown himself wholeheartedly into life in this country. But if you are coming here and you don't speak English, what happens is you'll end up ghettoising yourself. You'll end up staying around individuals that also don't speak English. And this is why many people feel that parts of our towns and cities just don't feel English anymore, because individuals have taken themselves away. They've put themselves effectively in gated communities and made no effort to take part in British life.
Rupert Lowe's talking about mass deportations. Reform are talking about thwarting the Boris wave. Even the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has suggested that she might double the time that you have to wait for indefinite leave to remain. Can the damage from these open border policies be reversed? Can the genie go back in the lamp, Robert?
It does all, sadly, depend on how successful Mahmood is in getting through these pretty modest reforms to indefinite leave to remain. If her backbenchers are able to scupper her plans to make these changes retrospective, and we end up with the Boris wave being given settled status, by the time we reach 2029, a large proportion, we're talking over 1 million people here, will have been given that status and then gone on ultimately to claim British citizenship as well. So there are huge costs if we don't get this right now. I think going forward, actually, post-2029, there is an opportunity to pursue a really strident policy of net negative migration, where we greatly reduce the number of entry visas we are awarding. And actually, we do a lot as well to remove some of the routes through which individuals that haven't made a contribution are able to stay in the country long term. And I think that does require scrapping indefinitely from it. It does require making citizenship a lot harder to obtain. And it does also require a lot more cultural assertion of British values, and actually saying, things such as Sharia law courts, things such as wearing the burqa or halal or kosher slaughter just really don't sit comfortably with the sense of what it is to be British. And some of those reforms as well, I do think actually are required, not just because it would help create a stronger national identity, but because it will go some way as well to reversing the decade now, the 2 decades plus of really damaging mass migration into Britain.
Look, I'll always praise this government if they do the right thing. Shabana Mahmood, as you said, has proposed a modest change to the rules around indefinite leave to remain, where you would have to wait 10 years rather than 5, which is a step in the right direction. Also, with the expectation that you speak the language to a high level, you don't have a criminal record, and that you're economically productive. And in fact, I welcome this from Labour, which is you jump the queue and you wait less long if you've got money and if you're a wealth creator. So all of these things are good, but it's probably likely that this policy is not going to happen at all, is it, Robert, given the pressure on the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary from the left of the Labour Party?
Yeah, and I think we've started to see that being leaked out into the press now as well, this suggestion. Actually, the key point of these reforms are that they would be retrospective and they would apply to the Boris wave, those who arrived between 2021 and 2024, and where the Home Office's own forecasts estimate that 1.6 million-ish people will require settled status in that time period. If they move away from doing the retrospective changes, which I think now probably, sadly, it is looking like they will do, then we end up with those individuals signing on, being given indefinite leave to remain, having access to Britain's welfare state, being able to bring over family members, being on a pathway to citizenship, and then also as well leaving the roles that they were brought in to do. So once you get indefinite leave to remain, you're able to work in any occupation you want. You're not sort of required to stick with your sponsor, as it were. And that kind of really blows apart this idea that actually migration.
Yeah, you come in because we need care home workers, and then once you've got indefinite leave to remain and citizenship, you can do anything you like, and many will just have a life on benefits. It's pretty wild, isn't it? There's one suggestion that if we settle the Boris wave, Robert, it'll cost up to £250 billion. I did say trillion, not billion. These are the sort of numbers. This is a Ponzi scheme. This is an absolute demographic and financial time bomb, isn't it, Robert, briefly?
It's fiscally ruinous, actually, and that's before we even get into the social and cultural costs that come with this. And actually what we will then see is chain migration as well, because these individuals have the right to bring over family members as well. I mean, all estimates that have been done suggest that this is going to be an absolute disaster. The fact we've got Labour backbenchers that are just completely beholden to this open border ideology, calling the shots now, really does suggest that the next 3 years of this Labour government could be incredibly painful for those of us that actually care about this country.
And last but not very briefly, Rob, a couple of seconds. If Reform get in, can they undo those changes to indefinitely to remain? Can they revoke settled status if they get into power?
Absolutely, they can revoke it. Indefinite doesn't mean permanent.
Okay.
It's just a worry if these individuals end up getting citizenship before Reform come in, whether Reform are prepared to go after the citizenship grants.
Wow. Robert, thank you so much for an important conversation. Happy Easter to you. Robert Bates is the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Has mass immigration been good for Britain?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dave in South Gloucester has messaged the show. Mark, if when you are on benefits you're receiving as much as, and in some cases more than those who work, why shouldn't you have to suck it up when inflation and energy costs increase, as those in work are expected to do? After all, those on benefits have their council tax, rent, etc. paid for them, unlike those who work and pay tax. Unfair? You bet it is. It is grossly unfair. Ernie says, hi Mark, in response to your Dolan's dispatch. Do Waitrose have a loyalty card? It doesn't seem to respect loyalty after sacking a long-serving worker for apprehending a shoplifter. Tony in Bournemouth said, Mark, remember the shop workers kept us all served during COVID whilst a lot of the rest of us sat at home. Hats off to the supermarket workers. Sue says, hi Mark, what happens when supermarket workers think this is not worth it? So they don't go on benefits and probably be better off financially. What an insane world we're living in. Every time I tell someone on a bus or a train to get their feet off the seats, I get dog's abuse. One guy in his 30s playing loud music, feet on the seats, told me I was lucky he didn't have a knife on him. Extraordinary, isn't it? I'll get to more of your feedback shortly. We're also looking for your dream talk show lineup. Your perfect show on Talk with the dream guest list. And this is a suggestion from an unnamed texter. Douglas Murray, Ben Shapiro, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Kemi Bagnock and Richard Tice. And this from another texter. Here's a lineup of guests I'd pay good money to see. Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves and Mad Ed Milliwatt. and a co-host asking the questions. Thank you for that. Keep those messages coming. Let me bring you up to speed on some breaking news. The UK would not emulate Donald Trump's language or approach on Iran, a cabinet minister has said, following an expletive-laden social media post from the US president. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson told broadcasters, "We see this kind of language often used by President Trump. It's for President Trump to explain the language that he chooses to use. It's not language or an approach that this government would be taking." She added, "Our approach as a UK government, the approach of the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, is to set out that we're not getting involved in offensive action. We won't be getting involved in offensive action at all. What we will do is provide defensive support." There you go. That's a statement from the government. Why Britain's most common crime has been poorly investigated for decades. Fraud has never been a police priority because, as one detective explained, it doesn't bang, bleed or shout like other crimes. It's not sexy, but it's doing huge damage to the country. The government and chief constables are now committed to improving fraud investigation and the service to victims of a crime that continues to rise, with an estimated 4.2 million frauds in the year to September 2025. Let's get reaction now from a very good friend of mine. He is, of course, I'm delighted to say, a former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector and a fourth-generation soldier in the Army, Mike Neville. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, hello, Mark.
Happy Easter. Well, fraud, a crime that's not sufficiently prosecuted in this country.
Yeah, there are several reasons. Like you said, one, it's not sexy. And if you look at these stats, often you get these reports saying that crime has been reduced. And then there'll be a little asterisk, and you look at right at the bottom of the page, and it'll say excluding fraud, because fraud's out of control. One, it has been ignored. But the other thing as well is the invention of the internet. Because at one time, a fraud meant, you went into a bank, you bounced a dodgy check, you're in your local area. Now I can sit at this laptop and I could swindle somebody in Buenos Aires, Tokyo and Sydney, Australia. And who's going to come and get me? If I swindle like £1 billion from a bank, somebody might be interested. But if I sit here and swindle £20,000 from each of an organisation in those cities, who comes to get me? Because the police are still set up for Victorian times. If you're a criminal in London, you commit crime in London. If you're a criminal in Manchester, you commit crime there. No, it's a very international affair. And why would you get involved in violent crime? In times past in the 60s, to get a lot of money, you had to do an armed robbery, like the Great Train Robbery or something like that. No, you can sit on a computer and swindle people across the world without very much danger of ever being caught. Something like less than 1% of fraudsters are captured.
Meanwhile, Mike, a long-standing Waitrose employee was sacked after stopping a suspected shoplifter in a South London branch of the supermarket. There is no incentive in 2026 to do the right thing, is there, Mike?
No, I've said this before, haven't I, Mark, that obeying the rules has become the stupid option. I always quote the two ladies who work near me. They work in 10-hour shifts. People come in there, steal, threaten them, and take out as much money as they're working for in a few seconds. The same with this guy here, Mr. Smith. He's trying his best. He's getting frustrated. And what does he get from Waitrose? The awful, you can almost imagine Keir Starmer reading out the statement, can't you? We respect all our employees. They're awful. The people who sacked him are no doubt fans of Zippy and Keir Starmer. And it's just a tragedy, really, that a 17 years working for one company, he's shown the door. Hopefully, he'll get a job somewhere else, because it really is a PR disaster for Waitrose. They really are, being made to look fools here, because what they've said in essence is, come into our shop, you can steal what you want. As long as you show a bit of violence, a bit of threat, you can have it and we'll let you go. And what does that say in modern Britain? It sums up everything. All the laws seem to be against the decent working people, don't they? So you can't tackle shoplifters. Then we have health and safety was a good idea. Now it's turned into a thing where, again, you can't fight the shoplifter. Data protection sounds like a good idea, but then you can't put pictures up of known thieves. So everything seems to be loaded against the decent people who just want to work and want to do the right thing, and they see criminals running off scot-free, and somebody's trying his best and earn a few quid by not being paid very much, I don't imagine, he gets the sack. It is truly outrageous.
Well, we've been in touch. Chris Jacobs, my producer, has reached out to Waitrose. We have the following from them. They've said, we've had incidents where our partners have been hospitalised when challenging shoplifters. Luckily, they've always recovered, but that might not always be the case. There's a serious danger to life in tackling shoplifters. We refuse to put anyone's life at risk, and that's why we've got policies in place that are very clearly understood and must be followed. As a responsible employer, we never want to be in a position where we're notifying families of a tragedy because someone tried to stop a theft. Nothing we sell is worth risking lives for. They go on to say, the reporting on this does not cover the full facts of the situation. Whilst we would never be able to discuss an individual case, we can assure you the correct process is being followed, which includes a standard appeals procedure. We've campaigned for some time for more to be done to protect shop workers from offenders, including retail crime being made into a specific standalone offence. The problem I've got, Mike, is that we're hearing from the Sun newspaper an insider at Sainsbury's who's revealed the supermarket are going to provide stab-proof vests for their workers. That's not the answer, is it? We need to stop this crime in the first place, not deal with the consequences.
Well, we need to stop it, and there needs to be consequences, because if you think, firstly, the government have got rid of the 12-month sentence, and therefore not many shoplifters get more than 12 months, so very few shoplifters are going to go to jail. Some of these people are absolutely prolific, doing 10, 20 crimes a day. And then you have the fact that the government have cut these sentences, so you've got 12,000 prolific shoplifters being re-released onto the streets. So it'll get worse and worse and worse. And it comes to a tipping point, doesn't it, where you're in the shop and people just blatantly walking out with stuff. Because as I've said before people used to hide it, didn't they, in the jacket and sneak out. Now they're like getting hold of it, fill a shopping bag and off they go. And so more and more people are going to think, well, I'll do that as well. In society, we obey the rules, don't we? Because we're not really frightened of the police or something. We obey them because it's the glue that keeps us all together. Like you say, putting your feet on the seats, not playing loud music when there's other people there. This is the glue that keeps us together. More and more people are breaking it. I was on the train and some family were playing this loud music. I said, I'm really trying to work it. Do you mind just turning that? Oh, we're entitled to do it. I said, no, we live in a society where that civilization, good manners, and people have lost all thoughts of that. It's just like, it's a selfish society we live in where people think, I can do it, so I am going to do it no matter what the impact is on others.
Mike, briefly, if you can, Donald Trump, is he going to have the last laugh in the Middle East?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, actually, because as people have said, he's a businessman, he gets a deal done, he comes out with some intemperate language like people don't expect, but do you know what? He might solve it. For years, we've been messing around, and we see it's like the story of the Gordian knot. People mess around, and then with one chop of the knot has gone, and Alexander the Great is the emperor. So it's, I think, with Donald Trump, it's a similar situation to that. We hear all these clever people who tell us all the time how wonderful people like Obama were, and they did nothing. So hopefully the wicked threat of Iran, particularly to Israel, will be removed, and I wish him all the best in that.
Mike, have an excellent Easter Monday. All my best to you and yours. Mike Neville, former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector and a fourth-generation soldier in the Army. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? Your calls next.
brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Michelle has messaged the show. Good afternoon, Michelle. Thank you for watching. She says, Mark, regarding the shoplifters, we should indeed arm the security staff, but with cattle prods. I pinched a mini caramel egg once as a child of about 10 years of age. My mother marched me back to the shop to return it and to apologise. The kind lady let me keep it, but I did not do it again. This from Alison in County Antrim, who says, hi, Mark, it goes to show regarding that Waitrose worker, you're only as good as your last 5 minutes in employment. You could have completed as many years successful employment as this man had, yet if you step outside of what is policy or process and it's set in place, then you are abandoned and it's game over. Thank you for that. This from Barry. Mark, I agree with your Dolan's Dispatch monologue. Time for people to step up and say no. I stepped up in the military. It's time for individuals such as yourself, Jeremy, Julia, Alex, Kevin, Ian, Peter and the rest to put yourselves forward for Parliament and sort out this country. Barry, thank you for that kind suggestion. Eddie is in South Shields. Hi, Eddie.
Hello there, Mark.
Lovely to have you on the show. Do you think that mass migration has been good for Britain?
Not at all.
Why not?
Because of the effect it's having on people who are hard workers and, as you call them, alarm clock Britain.
Yeah. Have you seen the impact of mass immigration in South Shields, where you live, Eddie?
Oh, definitely, yes.
And how has life changed there and the society? How's it changed?
I would think a lot of people are afraid to go out and, you know, because that's pretty daunting, some of these guys that we see.
Yeah.
But the reason I was calling him out was what I saw, which said that 2 souls lost their lives because it was an overcrowded boat, which the French failed to stop.
Yeah.
So surely all of these small boats are overcrowded.
They're all overcrowded.
Yes.
They don't have a seating allowance. This is not the Royal Caribbean cruise ship, is it, Eddie?
No, but the thing is, surely some maritime law must tell us that, let's say it's 40 people are allowed on these boats, where there's 80. That's we're going half the boats then.
Yeah.
If the French do stop them.
Eddie, it's an excuse, isn't it?
Definitely, but can we get an expert to tell us how many legally you could have on these type of ribs?
It's an absolute it's an absolute con, isn't it? And the French are a joke. We've given them $500 million already, Eddie, and we're going to give them more money. I think nothing will change.
Definitely, yeah. We need to stop these payments to them until they start doing a job for us.
Tell me about, the mood of the community up there where you live in South Shields, Eddie. How are people feeling about the country and where we're at?
Basically, we are with the rest of the country, I mean, I have myself worked out of Dover, and this was 15 years ago, and I saw it then. I would hate to be there now and see what it is now there.
And Eddie, do you have hope for the future? Like, can we save this great country of ours?
To be honest, I don't think we're going to see it at my age. So I'm losing hope with it.
What does the country need, Eddie?
I would say get Nigel Farage in and try and implement some of these things he's telling us he's going to do. The sooner the better.
This is what people crave, isn't it? Is change. That it's not working, Eddie. We have to tear it up and start again, and we have to sweep the establishment away, surely.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Have you retired now, Eddie, yourself?
Oh, yes, retired, yes.
But you put the hours in back in the day. What do you make of the fact that the cost of benefits is now higher than the entire income tax take of the Treasury?
Well, that's disgusting. But also what you said earlier, what it creates is the children of these people who aren't working think they can do exactly the same.
It's a worry, isn't it? It's a worry. Eddie, what a brilliant call. Can I thank you for joining us? I think that's your first time of calling the show, and I'd love to chat again soon. Eddie there in South Shields, who points out, because the French did not intercept a migrant boat in the Channel because there were too many people on it. I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? Eddie points out, aren't all of those boats full? Aren't they all heaving? Aren't they all dangerous vessels? Of course they are. Which is why illegal immigration is not just an economic and national security disaster, it's a humanitarian disaster as well. But the good people, the so-called progressive left, deafening in their silence. A really big hour to come. Your dream lineup on the Perfect Talk show. We're having some fun on a bank holiday, let me know. So much more to come. This is Talk, home of Common Sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 3, Mark Dolan with you on a bank holiday Monday. Lovely to have your company. I'm looking after the shop for Ian Collins. And then I'm back Saturday and Sunday. I'm not doing the usual Friday show because Jez is in, and I'll be back on Saturday. Very confusing. Back on Saturday at 6 a.m. But we've got a very busy hour to come. Breaking this afternoon, and this is quite a story, following his expletive-filled rant on social media, a peace deal with Iran is now on the table. So will Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East? Plus the miraculous story of how the US military crossed enemy lines to rescue that second airman. It's going to be a movie one day. We've got the whole incredible story. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan, the Sussexes, left Britain because they wanted privacy. But at the same time, fresh outrage as they share intimate and personal videos of Archie and Lily over the Easter weekend. We'll be exposing the Duke and Duchess of double standards with one of the world's leading royal commentators. And what about the scandal of £500 million a year being spent by schools to help 1.8 million pupils who don't speak English as a first language? My question this afternoon is a simple one. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? My phone number 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. Let's do that in the company of Peter Barnes, broadcaster and political strategist. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Mark. How's it going? Happy Monday. It's very weird to see you this day.
Definitely, and happy Easter, as long as we don't get cancelled for celebrating Easter. Peter, a deal is on the table. Will Donald Trump have the last laugh in the Middle East?
He's already laughing now. This is the great thing about it is I actually think that everybody who has been so against this war, so against Donald Trump, is fuming about the prospect of him actually bringing about peace. I go back to the Gaza situation. The woman from the BBC looked positively miserable that, Hamas and Israel and, that war was ended. She looked like she was about to burst into tears because it's Donald Trump. The narrative that has really come out of this war is really two things. First of all, there's no such thing as alliances. They're basically just transactional. You pay to play. The second point, fundamentally, is that every bit of criticism has been driven by personality, not by facts, not by reality, not by historical context, not by any marker that you could judge an actual geopolitical event by. It's because so many people are wrapped up in Orange Man bad that they've suddenly found themselves defending the Ayatollah and a regime that is responsible for the death of millions of people. It's absolutely absurd. It's perverse, but, it's 2026, so there you are.
The political right in this country, some of them have struggled with Donald Trump, haven't they, over tariffs, over some of his rhetoric around British personnel in Afghanistan. Some on the right in this country, some conservatives, struggle with Trump. Can you understand why?
Yes, it's because he doesn't follow the rules. So the problem of Europe and most kind of Western nations is they've all kind of got along with the same doctrines, no matter whether they be on the left or on the right. You can point one out. Orthodoxies, that's a great word for it, and it's completely correct. And the problem of Donald Trump is he kind of straddles lots of different bits of the right, because as we know, the right is a very fractured group. It kind of devolves down, and Donald Trump is a bit of this, he's a bit of that, he's a bit of this. So most people don't really understand that, because most people, particularly here in the UK, you're one type of conservative. You're this or you're that or that. You're a Thatcherite, you're a wet, you're whatever. Yeah. The problem with Trump is he's not that, because it's really important to notice the electorate aren't that. That's why he was able to pull in so many different groups of support, is because he appeals to different people with different aspects. But the thing about Trump that makes it very unique as a politician is the business side of things, is he understands the transaction. He gets why politics has changed. He didn't change it. It was already kind of marching this way anyway. But that's the bit that really where a lot of British conservatives, a lot of even just politicians in general and most people don't get it, is because they're trying to judge him based on a monolith, and he isn't one. So, he may look erratic. It's because he doesn't define himself by, one set of rules, which is a kind of pointless thing to do when you're the most powerful man in the world.
Is a weakened and effectively disarmed Iran enough of a result for the president, though?
Yes, because you've got to look at the kind of secondary results of this, because obviously Iran has they had the terror network of the proxies. They seem to have been relatively destroyed to a degree. We can hope, obviously this will be a little bit more of an ongoing thing, but in terms of you look at its collapse of this Axis powers, the anti-NATO, to want to put it in a better phrase, is China, North Korea, if you want to include Russia, maybe Pakistan, and a lot of these other nations. They've not come to each other's aids as quickly as one would as we were led to believe. That has been a great victory for Donald Trump. And also his control of the oil markets now stands at roughly about 41 to 43%. So, yes, I think you could count that as a pretty solid win, if we're being honest.
Is regime change off the table now?
No. And it never really, I don't think it was ever on the table. I think it was more of a kind of, this is what's going to happen. It's not really a negotiating point. Is, when the guy dies, you have to get rid of people. And, the Americans would never allow this situation to be that unstable, because as we've seen with the Strait of Hormuz, this is the point now, is that the choke points of trade around the world are dictating everything. This is why Greenland was important, because as the ice caps have melted, that has opened up new shipping lanes. So now a ship from China, what used to take 44 days to get to Europe, it now only takes 22. And that's the point. So this is why we had to make sure that the US had control of that passageway, because if Russia had it, that is another kind of Strait of Hormuz crisis waiting to happen. It's all about thinking one step ahead, and Donald Trump and the State Department and the Department for War have been about a mile ahead of most people, and particularly the commentariat.
What did you make of the expletive language? Was it becoming of the leader of the free world? Do you care, Peter?
I do. I don't think he should have done it, but at the end of the day, I listened to what he was actually saying, what's he actually trying to get across, and I actually think that maybe being that personal or actually showing some passion might not actually be a bad thing. The problem is most people are ready to, as you said there, it's like, oh, is it right? Is it this? Is it all the rest of it? I mean, let's be real. He's a person at the end of the day. He's also a New Yorker, and if you know New Yorkers, I mean, that's like the least worst thing he could have said. And I will say that I don't really care. I care about what he's doing, and I think that is what the really focusing on here is, because Europe hasn't done anything. Starmer hasn't done anything. Macron, Ursula von der Leyen, Yvette Cooper. If you can find her, she's like, where's Wally?
It's been a talking shop for 3 decades.
Yeah, I always say that Yvette Cooper's now the Where's Wally of Westminster, because no one can find her. It's ridiculous. But I think this is really the point. So why the attack on these things when it comes to Donald Trump is because they get to attack on these kind of moral principles because they think they're better than him. And that's really their criticism is, I don't care what he does, I'm just a better person. And I think it's childish and pathetic, actually.
Do you ever get a little exhausted by Donald Trump? Because I think the world is just having trouble keeping up with this man. It's relentless.
Yes, I would say since Christmas last year, when the build-up to the Venezuela things, when they started doing the drug cartel seizing of the ships, that was when this really started to speed up, because it was about putting the plan in place to really get control of the oil markets for this move in Iran. I think we're looking at Cuba next. We're looking at operations in the South China Sea in particular. If we look at what the Philippines are doing with being able to box China in over the ASEAN project, that's where a lot of it's going, and the Americans need a base in that area. So, it's all about, again, just look at the board. We always used to say when I was studying was see the whole board. Don't look at individual pieces, see the whole board. And once you do that, it's not actually that exhausting. It's just, it's one leads to the other, leads to the other. It's quite a nice domino effect, actually, for want of a nicer analogy. But yeah, it's just take a step back, breathe. Don't listen to the orange man bad people, and it's not that bad.
You're a very considered man, Peter. You're very knowledgeable as well. Do you ever get nervous based upon your relatively pro-Trump position? Do you ever feel like a hostage to fortune, given how mercurial and unpredictable he is?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't really, in terms of, I don't take him at face value. I always look at what he's actually doing, and I judge him on that. Don't get me wrong. I think Trump has done some terrible things domestically. His control of the economy really hasn't been that great in Trump 2 compared to Trump 1, but, he's a politician, he's a person. I don't put faith in politicians. I don't understand why people do that. How many times do you have to be let down before you suddenly realize maybe you're the problem? And yeah, I think that's the thing, is people get so worked up by him because he's not behaving like everything before. And then you throw in this kind of economic situation we've got here, the migrant crisis, everything else. It just seems like chaos. And he's the sponge that sucked it all up. And everybody's pointing and hating on Orange Man. And it's a bit tiresome, actually, at times. I get more annoyed and irritated than concerned.
So do you think by the time that he ceases to be president, we'll look back on Trump's era as a very positive time for America and the world?
I think I'll be dead by the time we have that narrative, because once he leaves office, it'll be, look at his Iran war, look at what he did in Venezuela, look at this, look at that. It will be all the negatives, as compared to Barack Obama. It was all the positives, and Joe Biden was asleep for most of the time, so he didn't really have that long of a your highlights or your best bits, as Davina McCall used to say. But I think that's the point, really, is that it doesn't matter whether he's in office or out of office. They're still going to pursue him, they're still going to besmirch him, and they're still going to make him out like to be an idiot, despite the fact that he's done more, I think, in the last 2 years, and the previous presidency as well, than the last two presidents actually have. And I think that's a really important point to make, is it's about action. He's really kind of dressed everything down, got rid of the stage makeup and all the costume jewelry, and actually said, you've got to learn your lines, you've got to deliver. And unfortunately Europe doesn't like that, because it got told what to do.
Most definitely, I completely agree with you on that one. I think Trump is likely to be the most consequential president since Reagan and potentially Franklin D. Roosevelt. Peter, if anyone's earned themselves a bank holiday pint, it's you. It's a nice sunny day in the capital. Get yourself an Amstel. It's on me. We'll catch up soon. The brilliant Peter Barnes, political strategist. What are you up to today, by the way? Let me know on the text. Are you having a little drinky this afternoon? Of course, do drink in moderation. Claire Telford's in the studio. I better be careful. Folks, so much to get through. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? And what about our benefits system? The incentives are all wrong, are they not? Vivian is in Devon. Hello, Vivian.
Hello. I'm just ringing up about the unfairness of the benefit system and how it seems the more you do, the more you get punished.
Yes.
I started work when I was 16. I worked full-time for over 35 years. Never claimed anything. Didn't have time off for maternity leave because I didn't want children. Had to retire on ill health grounds. I'm going to need carers soon. And because I worked, we own our house, it's going to cost me a fortune. If I'd sat on my backside all my life, I'd get the carers for free. How is that fair?
It's so wrong. So your one asset is your home, and that's going to be raided by the Treasury to pay for your care. And as you said, if you'd been in council accommodation, never done a day's work in your life, you're good to go, you get it for free. The incentives in this country, Vivian, are all wrong.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I'm thinking, why did I bother?
Yeah. And if you had your time again, I guess you wouldn't.
Well, probably, I probably would.
I know. Vivian, what are your thoughts about the future for the country? Can this great country be saved?
I don't see how. I just don't. It's just all going downhill. Starmer doesn't care about it, and how he's got the nerve to stand between two Union flags when he's talking about rejoining the EU, I don't know.
Many people, Vivian, feel that we need a big change, and an insurgent party like Reform and a figure like Nigel Farage, who's not an establishment politician, might be the answer. What do you think?
I'll be voting for him.
Really? Why?
For the change, but he's got the blob to contend with. How does that happen?
I know. Vivian, how are you feeling at the moment, by the way? I'm really, really sorry that you're not in the best shape. How are you getting on day to day?
It's a struggle, and we're delaying the carers because of the cost. And my symptoms were made a lot worse by the COVID vaccine, which turned things upside down.
Really?
Yep.
So you were advised to be vaccinated during the pandemic, and you had a bad reaction, did you?
Yep, within days. I couldn't stand within days of it.
And have you recovered from those vaccine-related side effects?
I never will.
So what are your feelings about the authorities who were so insistent that as many people as possible needed to be jabbed?
I can't say that.
Yeah. But obviously you wouldn't have it now. I mean, were you told you needed it because you were a vulnerable person, which was always the big argument for vaccines?
That's the impression I got, yes.
And is that a fair defence of the authorities or not?
No. I don't think enough research had gone into it.
Yeah.
And I've just got a quick thought about all those little morons that ran riot in Clapham.
Yeah.
I don't think anything like youth centres will help. How about cutting down on their parents' benefits?
Well, that's a brilliant idea, because there need to be consequences, don't there? Not just for the youngsters, but the parents. Where are the parents in all of this, Vivian?
Yeah, that might make them a bit more responsible.
Well, Vivian, can I just thank you for your call? And on behalf of my viewers and listeners, we're all sending our love and our best wishes to you, considering the serious health challenges that you've got, including a shocking vaccine-related injury. No one should have been bullied into receiving the vaccine for COVID-19. It should have been personal choice, not pressure. And you've paid a price for that. And we're going to use this platform to call out when that happens. Meanwhile, you've worked hard all your life, you've got your own home, and you're delaying getting people in, carers, to help you with your health symptoms because of the cost. And you've worked all your life, you've paid your taxes, you're responsible for your own accommodation, and eventually the value of your house will be plundered by the Chancellor of the Exchequer just so you can be taken care of. It's deeply wrong. Vivian, God bless you and happy Easter, and call me again soon. Let's keep this conversation going. So many voice notes. Thank you to my brilliant engineer, Amy. It's a great reunion. We worked together on Drive all those years ago. Let's take a listen to a voice note from Karen.
Hi, Mark. This language barrier thing is just stupid, getting on my nerves now. So that means that other people's education who are English and who were born here, or whoever bothered to learn the language, their education gets disrupted because these children have these sort of helpers in the class is slower. And then what happens? You have some children getting bored with that and they just start staring out the window and think, what's the point? They're getting all the attention. I'm not getting any attention. But I'm getting sick of it.
Karen, you've raised a really good point. So if you're just joining us, it's costing the Department for Education £500 million a year to support children in schools that don't speak English as a first language. It's almost 2 million kids, by the way, who need that support. And it's not just the cost, as Karen points out, it's the impact on the bright kids for whom English is their first language in the classroom, who don't get the one-on-one from the teacher. This is a race to the bottom, folks. This is apocalyptic stuff. How about a voice note from Anthony?
The fact that Labour are going to give these benefit claimants basically a pay rise, I mean, this is becoming some sort of sick joke, isn't it? You know, the Labour government are going to start handing out hard-earned taxpayers' money to these people that don't want to get out of bed. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's genuine cases in that and that should be recognised. But the fact that, you know, they're just going to, that they're handing out money to people that basically don't want to get out of bed, these people know who they are.
I totally agree with you. I mean, what a brilliant voice note that is. It's just not fair. It's just not right. The incentives in this country are all wrong. Let's finish off for now with Rob.
I don't think it's because of poverty and because certain groups of people are treated differently than another group of people, which the left are always banging on about, saying, oh, it's because they're deprived, it's because of poverty, it's because they've got less than everyone else. Absolute rubbish. I myself am not rich. I've worked all my life since I was 17 as a nurse. I'm not a rich man by any means. You know, sometimes over the years, and even now, I struggle terribly to make ends meet. I'm not going out shoplifting. So that's absolute rubbish. These people, they're only doing it because they want to cause mayhem, they want to cause trouble, and also they want to prove a point.
Well, listen, Rob, again, thank you for a brilliant voice note. Keep them coming. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Your dream lineup for the perfect fantasy talk show. This from Karen, who says, Mark, my perfect lineup will be a head-to-head between Layla Cunningham and Sadiq Khan and Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer, followed by Big Richard Tice and Rachel Thieves. Thank you so much for that. Has mass immigration been good for the country? June says, travelling home from Brum on the bus, my husband and I were the only white people and terrified. The bus wasn't full, but all the empty seats were taken with feet or bags. We had to stand because in our 70s, we're too old and nervous about confrontation. There is no respect. Thank you for that. I'll get to more of your feedback shortly. Well, what a moment. Donald Trump posted on social media, on his Truth Social network, that we have our man. It's an amazing story of the missing airman rescued across enemy lines. Let's get the full inside story from Simon Diggins, defence analyst. Hello, Simon.
Mark, good afternoon to you.
Lovely to have you on the programme. Can you explain to us the significance of the rescue of this man?
Well, I think, first of all, there's a psychological one. America does not leave people behind. They're one of the sort of kind of key insight almost from Vietnam and from later behind. I'm sure you've been to the Washington Memorial, and you still see today people who are really determined or believe that there are still missing US servicemen from Vietnam. So it's a psychological thing for Americans as well. It's also basically good military practice. You don't leave people behind. I only wish we had in our own country the sort of capability that the Americans have got to ensure that if one of our people are caught out behind enemy lines, they could be rescued in the same way, and we don't. So I think that's the key to it from there. I think there was also a kind of defensive element for President Trump, because he was very conscious, and one of the first almost political statements we know from President Trump when he was a 30-year-old was his utter dismay at the capture and hostage-taking of the US Embassy in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution itself. So the prospect of an American serviceman being held hostage by the Iranians, I think, was very conscious on his mind. So lots of reasons why, for America, it was absolutely essential that they got these people back.
Most definitely. It's my understanding that this guy scaled a mountain, only revealed his location at the very last minute, and Simon only had a pistol by way of self-defense.
That would make perfect sense. But bear in mind that he was one of the two crewmen in the F-15, the sort of Strike Eagle. And I mean, you're flying in the jet. You don't have a lot of spare equipment with you. You wouldn't reveal your position until you knew it was safe to do so, on the basis that the instrument used is something that could well be picked up by other people as well. So you want to be sure that you're in a safe place where you can be rescued from.
So the plane is hit, this F-15E, I think it's called. He ejects mid-air, is that right?
I can only assume so. We haven't got all the details. He may have been a forced ejection, but I mean, the aircraft's hit, and then you've literally got seconds to respond, and both he and the pilot responded at the same time. And they ended up in different places. But again, it's not particularly surprising. This jet's doing 200 to 300 knots, still got a forward momentum, gets hit. If you're even half a second one after the other, then you're going to end up in a different place.
The implications for any negotiations with the Iranian regime are huge, given the fact that if they'd been able to capture this man, they would have weaponized that and then some.
No, absolutely. I think that's exactly what was on the mind of the Americans. That the consequences of not capturing him being taken by the Iranians was very high. I mean, there is a wider issue about whether or not the negotiations are possible or in good faith. I note the reports coming in that the Israelis just attacked again the South Pars oil field. Now, the full circumstances are not there at the moment, but the kind of toxic reaction it produced last time would not necessarily help any negotiations going forward.
No, and of course it would have been a political problem at home with a war that's already not wildly popular.
No, I think that's right. That's also part of the challenge that President Trump has got. I mean, one of the things he brought to America, what he said was there'd be no more forever wars. And we've also now got the implications in terms of oil prices and everything that goes with it. I happen to believe that actually trying to do something dramatic with Iran was absolutely the right thing to do. And I mean, I'm not, we don't know quite where they got to on their trajectory of building a nuclear weapon. That's certainly what they were trying to do. But the whole strategy of when it happened, how it's put together, the consequence and consequence management, I think there are some questions over those.
Simon, the majority of the defence and military establishment seem to think that this adventure in the Middle East is a mistake. Why do you beg to differ?
Because I think I think part of the thing that goes on is that it's what can we do about it. I mean, that's kind of the challenge that we've got. So I think that some of the what seemed to be in principle defending British interests, the line from Keir Starmer, actually we had no means of doing anything about it. We couldn't even deal with kind of consequence management in terms of defence or our allies in the Gulf. So we've then come up with this line, we're defending our British interests. I think we need to look really hard. We need to look at what the Iranians are doing. I mean, it's not just about the nuclear weapons. It's a sponsorship of terror in the Middle East and a sponsorship of murder and mayhem in our own country. In truth is that, Mark, we've been slowly boiled by the Iranians over the last 40 years. It's kind of the boiled frog analogy. And we've got so used to their low levels of violence, terrorism, spawning, subversion, that we've actually forgotten what it looks like. Never forget, we are the little Satan. You know, we're up there with the death to America, death to Israel. They have been at war with us, even if we pretended not to be at war with them. So I said, we may not have had the capability to do much about it, but in terms of principle, I'm really clear. This is our war, and we should be supporting President Trump.
The Americans didn't start a war in 2026. The Iranians started it 3 decades ago.
Correct. That's exactly right. They started, and they haven't stopped. I mean, they haven't stopped the way they've conducted subversion. I mean, you'll know from your own journalistic colleagues. I mean, Iran TV was basically forced out of this country because of the plots of the IRGC, who bizarrely we still haven't prescribed. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Why is this organisation, which sponsors state terror throughout the world, not proscribed? Just beyond me that we haven't done something with them.
What a treat to meet you for the first time, Simon. Thank you so much for your valuable time. I look forward to catching up very soon. Simon Diggins is a defence analyst who has pointed out the military and diplomatic significance of that US airman being rescued. And I do think that the fact that they've got their man means that a peace deal is coming. Here's hoping. Folks, so much more to get through. Has mass immigration been good for the country? How are we doing for voice notes? Should we smash one out? OK, here's Marky. Take a listen.
There is one option that solves the problems. All these people saying, oh, you can't do it, blah, blah, blah. It's all done, it's blah, 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 and all this nonsense. Well, that's absolute gobbledygook and crap, to be fair. There is only one party that's offering this in a serious manner with an actual policy platform, and that's Restore Britain. People might not want to hear that. Some Reform voters might not want to hear that, but that's the reality. Nigel Farage, Reform, are not anti-establishment. They're very much establishment.
Thank you very much for that. Ernie has messaged the show. Has mass immigration been good for Britain? Hello, Mark. If there are 2 million children that are in English schools who can't speak English, it stands to reason their parents can't either, or they would have taught them before they went to school. So that equates to 6 million people who can't speak English. That is double the population of Wales. It's a very, very fair point. Can't disagree with that. Becca says, Mark, it's not just the kids that can't speak English. Try listening to some of the teachers. My daughter had a cover teacher for English language, who had a thick Spanish accent. Becca, thank you for that. Glyn in Catterick, hi Mark. Keir Starmer needs to be made to sit down and have Vivian's call played back to him. Great show. Well, Glyn, thank you for that. If you're just joining us, I took a call from a very nice lady called Vivian, who's got a load of health issues. She had a bad reaction to the COVID-19 vaccine, and she's delaying getting carers in because of the cost. And when she does go into full-time care, the value from her home will be exploited by the local authority. And if she'd never worked and didn't own her own home, then the state would pay. The incentives in this country are all wrong. We may have a development on that story, by the way. There could be help on the way for Vivian. Lots more to come. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk, and it's exactly 3:35 in the afternoon. A fresh row around the Sussexes and their focus on privacy, as it's revealed that they've shared lots of video images of Archie and Lily on Meghan's Instagram account. Are they the Duke and Duchess of double standards? Who better to ask than a very old friend of mine, the former royal editor of the Sun newspaper and Prince Harry's biographer, Duncan Larkham. Hello, Duncan.
Mark, great to see you. Hi.
Really good to have you on the programme. Harry and Meghan can't have it both ways, can they? They can't talk about their privacy and then put the kids on Instagram.
They are the couple of cake and eat it, aren't they? I mean, they agreed to move out of the UK on conditions they weren't going to be royals anymore, and yet they do go royal tours to Australia and Jordan, and it's all about self-promotion. Yeah, I mean, it is double standards. They argue about their privacy and then they use their own children to get publicity. It's a triangle doesn't fit in a square peg.
Most definitely, and it's ironic because the couple have been very public in their concerns about the impact of social media on children and young people, and yet Archie and Lily are a regular feature of Meghan's Instagram feed.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's at pains not to show their faces very often. I think we saw these images of them sort of running on an Easter egg hunt where you only saw the backs of them. But even so, does that make a lot of difference? I'm not sure it does. It's just, what do you expect from a couple that not that long ago lectured about environmentalism and then took 4 private jet flights in 11 days? You know, I don't know what we expect. I'm not surprised by this, but I'm not surprised that it's caused a bit of a ruckus.
Most definitely. And as you know, Duncan, Harry is currently suing the Daily Mail in relation to illegal tactics to get information about his private life. Effectively, the theme is press intrusion. Meanwhile, the Sussexes are invading their own privacy via their own social media. I mean, if someone else was filming Archie and Lily and putting it online, there would be hell to pay.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine the fuss? And I think there have been lawyers involved behind the scenes to stop exactly that happening with pictures that have been taken of their children when they've been with them. Yeah, it's just they whistle their own tune, Mark. There's no other way of really saying it. I mean, they do what they want when they want to do it, and they moan when they can't, you know.
Yeah, and filming the children from behind, you know, as a seasoned journalist, Duncan, filming the children from behind, covering their faces with a heart, that doesn't protect the children's privacy or even safety. There's an argument that these videos create more interest in the kids.
That's exactly right. I mean, it heightens the interest. If you're going to draw attention to your children and you're going to effectively cash in on them for publicity reasons, then you're increasing the bounty on their heads, frankly.
Now, it's my understanding, Duncan, that Harry is not that happy that Archie and Lily are now public figures and that they feature on Meghan's Instagram. You know Harry well. You've written one of the definitive biographies of the Prince. Is that your understanding too, that this is not coming from Harry to make the kids celebrities?
I would be 99% certain that this is not coming from Harry, and I think that Harry would be horrified by the fact that, you know, his wife sees this as acceptable. I mean, whether he's got the guts to stick up for himself and say, look, Meghan, this is crossing a line or not, we don't know. I mean, I think it was Donald Trump that said that Harry was pistol whipped by his wife. But I think anyone that knows Harry knows how much his privacy counts. But his privacy, as we know, is for sale to the highest bidder. That's the modern reality for the Sussexes.
And if Meghan is the driving force behind the use of Archie and Lily in her Instagram posts, why is she doing it? What motivates the Duchess to feature her children so publicly, Duncan?
Well, the minute that Meghan and Harry met, and certainly the moment they got married, Meghan has been building a brand. And it's as simple as that. It's about Meghan. It's about her profile. It's about her being one of those big A-list celebrities with all these celebrity friends, and it's all about Meghan. This isn't the life that Harry wanted. This was the life he escaped or thought he had. He wanted to get out of the limelight. He wanted a normal life, particularly for his children, and yet Meghan, his wife, seems to be in a completely different wavelength, where she wants to build a brand, wants to make lots of money, and wants to be absolutely queen of the town or the city in Los Angeles, where she was once a struggling actress.
It's also my understanding, Duncan, that disagreements over how to raise the kids and whether or not they feature on social media is a conflict point in the relationship. This is not surprising, is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always careful not to delve into their sort of relationship, because I think that is something privately between the two of them, and it's not for me to draw conclusions about, what they row about and who wears the trousers, although I've just done exactly that, but thanks for that, Mark. I think, Harry has shown that he is willing to go wherever Meghan wants to take him. Now, whether that's a regret for Harry or not, we simply don't know. But it's I've covered Prince Harry since he was a teenager, and I can tell you for a fact that he just does not want the limelight. He doesn't want images of his children on any form of social media. He really, really doesn't. He knows what it was like as a little child being paraded in front of the cameras, and he hated it. It scarred him. It damaged him. He doesn't want to damage his own children. So I do find this as a bit of an insight into perhaps who's in charge of that relationship, who's the driving force. And, frankly, I worry for the whole family.
You've rightly suggested that this is probably not the life Harry chose. I was joined in the studio last weekend by Charlotte Griffiths, who you'll know well, Duncan, editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and somebody that's actually given evidence in the High Court at the Royal Courts of Justice in regard to Harry's actions, his legal action against the Daily Mail. Yeah. And she told me in this studio, Duncan, that she feels that Meghan misled Harry in the run-up to their marriage about what her intentions were. She went as far as to say that she gave Harry the impression that she'd love to live in South Africa, which she argues was Harry's dream. Well, none of that has played out. Has anything gone Harry's way, in your view?
Well, I certainly would agree with that assessment of living in South Africa or Africa would have been Harry's dream. I don't doubt that for a second. Has anything gone Harry's way? Well, he wanted children. He wanted to become a dad. That's something that's happened. But he, you've got to imagine with Harry, he grew up like most little children grow up dreaming of being a prince or a princess living in a castle. Harry lived in castles and big mansion houses and dreamt of being an ordinary little boy. And that's the reality of it. He never sat comfortably as a prince and as a member of the royal family. And yet now he's being paraded around, and his children paraded around, for a brand that's being built by his wife. So it's no wonder, perhaps, that many of Harry's inner circle of friends have just been completely alienated from him and don't know the guy anymore.
Most definitely. Well, this is a problem, isn't it? And the royal butler, who's a man that knows Harry well, that's Grant Harold, said that one of the most surprising aspects of Harry post-marrying Meghan and post-Megxit is that he's not in touch with his old friends. And a picture emerges, Duncan, of a guy that's been separated from his family, separated from his friends, separated from his country. He's lost his royal duties and his military commitments as well. He strikes a very isolated figure in that Montecito mansion.
Sadly, I can't disagree with a word of that. I think that's absolutely right. And, what sort of life did Harry want? Well, the life he had was one as a working royal, somebody who was in the limelight, somebody who was forced to do all sorts of public engagements and big set-piece events. What's the life he's got now? He's living in the limelight, doing his own royal tours and his own royal engagements, rubbing shoulders with the rich and powerful and famous, which has never, ever been Harry's He's not bothered about that. He's had that since he goes to take that concert with his mum, and he's behind stage with Gary Barlow and co. You know, it doesn't mean anything to him. So I'm really worried for Harry's own sanity, frankly, that he's stuck in this world that he thought he was escaping.
How do you see things playing out, Duncan? You're a lot more judicious and tactful than I am when it comes to discussing Harry and Meghan.
Sure, that's not true.
But you know, you're right that we don't know the inner workings of that marriage. Of course we don't. And I think we can say, Duncan, we wish them both well. They love their kids, that's clear. And they are husband and wife. Tom Bowers said he thinks that more or less that Harry still loves Meghan. So, you know, fingers crossed it all works out. But just based upon your experience and your knowledge of Harry and your reading of the situation, how do you see things playing out for the Sussexes?
Well, what I do know about Harry from having covered previous relationships he's had and spoken to people around those relationships that knew him well, he's not the marching prince on a horse who's, you know, in charge and full of his own importance and ego, which was one of the reasons I think Harry was such a popular royal back in the day. He's very much happy to play second fiddle. We think of perhaps Cressida Bonus, one of his ex-girlfriends. She was very bohemian. She went down to Glastonbury Rock Festival. Harry went along in tow, obediently. And Harry was wearing chinos and a jacket and looked completely out of place and completely uncomfortable, trying to go along with what the girlfriend at the time was into, you know. So he's got form for this. It's just a question of whether or not a marriage can actually last when you are forced to be absolutely submissive and, dare I say it, just do as you're told.
Well, reading between the lines, I think it doesn't bode well. Duncan, such a delight to see you again, and thank you so much for your valuable input and insight into what is the most extraordinary royal drama and a human drama. Duncan Larkham is the former royal editor of the Sun newspaper and the author of Prince Harry, The Inside Story. So much more to come. Your calls, the voice notes and the texts. We're going to finalise our perfect fantasy talk show. Plus, has mass immigration been good for Britain? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 3:50. This is Talk. The brilliant Kevin O'Sullivan live at exactly 4 p.m. I'm back Saturday morning. Now, my normal slot is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 till 10 a.m. Jezza is looking after Friday's show. I'm back Saturday, and we're back to normal the following weekend. Looking forward to that. But I'm so excited about this. We are giving you the chance to win a life-changing £20,000 completely tax-free here on Talk. That is £20,000 straight into your bank account. Spend it, save it, splash it. It's entirely up to you. Here's how you win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 9th of April 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
You are listening to Talk. It's exactly 3:51. Lots of people are asking for my dream Talk lineup. Are you ready? Kevin O'Sullivan, Jeremy Kyle, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Peter Cardwell, the big man himself, Alex Phillips, Petri Hoskin, and all of the stars of this great network. I tell you what, do you know what my real dream lineup is? It's you. It's your calls, it's this conversation, it's the text messages, it's the voice notes. It's why we exist. I think you can tell when I get on air that my favourite bit is when we talk, and that I am merely a conduit, a vessel by which through your opinions will flow. Let's get some calls going. Dream Radio lineup. We got time for that now? Let's have a chat with Grace, who's in the capital. Hi, Grace.
Hi. I hope you've been having a good Easter so far.
I'm loving it. I think it's a great tradition. It's a Christian festival, which we must celebrate. And we eat some chocolate, we go to church, and we have a cup of tea, and we have a good time. Have you had a good Easter so far, Grace?
It's been very nice as well, thank you, yes.
Did you worship? Did you go to church yesterday?
I didn't go to a service in person yesterday for some complicated family reasons, but I've been watching various sermons online, and there are lots of brilliant Bible teachers you can listen to online, even if you're not able to get to church in person, although that's obviously a marvellous thing to do as well.
That's brilliant.
And so to be very predictable, apologies for this, but I would, if I could have a historical character in the lineup, I would have Jesus on. And some people don't even realise that he was a historical person, but there's plenty of good historical evidence to back up that Jesus walked the earth. There's even pretty good historical evidence that he rose, but I won't convince people of that, I'm quite sure. But I would have him on your dream panel.
I think Jesus Christ is up there in terms of bookings.
He would certainly be able to give us some great advice. I know I need advice. Someone who particularly needs advice because of his position of power, so another person I would have on the panel would be Trump. I think it would be great for Jesus to give Trump some guidance on what he perhaps ought to be doing, particularly at this precise moment, and maybe to disabuse Trump of some misunderstandings that Trump has. For instance, Jesus told us to care about the poor, and yet Trump has cut aid programs to the world's poorest people. Trump also seems to think that he'll get to heaven if he can end wars, and if he can end wars, that would be marvellous. But what Jesus actually said is that the only way is through Jesus himself. It's not about anything that Trump or anyone else achieves. It's not what we can do or succeed in. Jesus says the way is just through him, what he's done on the cross. So I think Jesus ought to maybe clarify that for Trump, because Trump is confused about his theology as well as his difficulties with this complicated global war situation we've got going on. And if I had another person, I was just thinking, after you mentioned Peter Cardwell, obviously it's great to have him around, maybe Larry the Cat would be a good political expert to have on to represent British politics.
Well, I completely agree. It's literally high time there was a pussy on the radio. And Larry the Cat, he's seen it, he's been there, he's got the T-shirt, hasn't it, Grace? He's had Theresa May, he's had Liz Truss, he's had Rishi, and now he's dealing with Starmer. Do you think he scratches Starmer, by the way?
I don't know. I would imagine that if he's prone to scratching, then he might not have been kept around quite so long.
No, he'll have been chucked out, just like all the others. Grace, a brilliant call, and thank you so much for your really interesting insights on the spiritual side of it as well, and your suggestion that Trump could do well to be guided by Jesus Christ. If we could get those two on the show, wouldn't that be something? Janice is in Essex. Hello, Janice. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm quite happy, actually. I've had a miserable Easter
because there's been nothing on about our celebration of what it is.
I know.
But I would actually say Trump is being guided by a very good pastor. I don't care what the Pope says, whether you're going to heaven or not. It's not.
Well, the Pope has gone crazy woke, hasn't he, Janice?
Yeah. Oh, I can't stand all this.
I mean, what has happened to the Roman Catholic Church? I can say that as a Catholic myself. I mean, seriously, they've lost the plot.
Sorry for you, mate.
I know. Go woke, no Pope.
A bit of a Christian.
So Janice, what do you think about Trump? I mean, is he going to have the last laugh in the Middle East?
Absolutely. Right. I'm so fed up. I told one of your lovely people that they know me as Rat Woman because of other your presenters and other people. They know me as Rat Woman for a story I had 3 years ago. I absolutely am sick to death of people bashing Trump. He said 6 weeks. He never turned around and said he would free 92 million people from this tyranny. What he wanted was them to rise up. Now, if you listen to him, I've read up a lot about him. I know who he is as a person.
Yeah.
The bottom line with him is the bottom line. But I don't think they quite really cared about the Straits. And quite honestly, all I'm hearing is people going, it's a few pennies at the pump. Well, hang on a minute. There's 92 million people that on a daily basis are getting tortured, hung. Well, how would you like that in this country?
Janice, I'm glad you said that, because also we got that figure of 40,000 people murdered by the regime in the last few months. But, Janice, it's my understanding that over 1 million people plus have been killed by the regime over the last 4 decades.
At least. That's all we know about, because they're very closed. And I actually think, when I'm listening to people moaning at what he's doing, imagine in 9 months, a year's time, the Middle East is settled. That includes Israel, Palestine. All that is settled because we got rid of these. Do we want to look at another Manchester bombing? Everybody's sitting there going, oh, all these people. No, look at those 92 million that are suffering every day. Every day. They didn't march out because Trump told them. They marched out because of their state of living. Because
Janice, you're right.
Every penny he had went on paying money for all these terrorists. That we just go, oh, well, it's not happening to us. Well, it's not happening to your 3 children that were knifed, is it?
Janice, what would you say to people that argue Trump is unpredictable, unprepared, and has no plan, Janice?
Absolutely not. I've been reading up about the man. I know who he is. I know my star sign, so maybe people don't.
Which star sign is he, old Trump? Is he an Aries or what?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, well, you don't mess with the Aries. That's the ram, isn't it?
I've been reading up. About Star. That's as weak as nuts. Can't even go there with that one. I've been reading up on him. You have to understand, when he comes out with stuff, he's going a little bit mad right now, purely because he's pushing it. He's pushing them, and we don't know how many weapons are out, because all these people, like